Mm-hmm. All right. Getting started. Settle in, hit that like, everybody. Share the show. Let me grab a couple things. I think we're up on Instagram. That's working. Excellent. Here. Sure that's where it needs to be. All right. Those stations are up. I need to give it more power. Reopening the Discord because it shut for some reason. All the behind the scenes. We're doing all right. Patreon.com/HouseSparks. Etc. 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 All right. Okay, almost there. Whoops, I forgot. I don't have buttons for anything yet, so I have to do this manually. Hi, how you doing? Welcome to HouseSparks Megaworldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. It's the greatest live stream in the history of live streams, and I'm very happy to be with you this fine day. Now, I'm going to try something right now. Wish me luck. Hey, look at that. It's the chat room. It's a little see-through. Okay, just fix that a little bit, I think. But it's a good start. Either. Let's see, the chat... should be behind the box. That looks a little bit better. Okay. And then, yeah, it looks good otherwise. It's fabulous. You guys could just be running in the background looking all fancy. It's very computer. I fixed it. Anyways, I fixed it so I had a chat page. I've got a little tweaking to do, but what do you want to do? Huh? Come on. There's so much news and so much going on that the fact that I'm even capable of continuing to rebuild the show from scratch, as I had to do because of the crashes we were having, and then meditate by way of stringing my guitars. I don't know what you guys do. In chat room, maybe you can tell me. Let me see if I can do this real quick. Let's see. Go back to here. Properties. No. Background color. No. 000. Overflow. I try to do that. Okay. Right. Maybe that's what I do. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to try and embed and stream. There we go. And I think I raised the thing. Chat back. That's a little bit better. Let me copy and launch and try this. Copy. Excellent. And then go back to you guys so that I can see you. And try to do this. It might take a moment. I might reload it. Paste. Okay. And then it'll start reloading, and it should be a little bit darker for you guys to stand out a little bit more. Still looking cool, though, I think. There we go. That's a little, yeah. We make the original theme music. I live for it, dang nabbit. Okay, I will definitely rotate it through. I might do the new music as the outro. The only thing I did was that the file wasn't, I threw out all the files in this computer just in case anything was screwed. And so I haven't moved that file back to this computer yet. So I'm playing it just through. I still have it. It's in there. I'll fix it, God damn it. I'm trying to dice things up. It goes along with my new facial hair, which barely passes for hair at this point, but I'm doing the best I can. Anyway, so now you can at least read it. A little darker, a little better. I may ultimately shift around and change the colors of it so it stands out a little better or something like that. But we'll figure it out. Okay. You look like your own evil twin. Well, thank you. That's very sweet. It's the nicest thing. Okay, so famously, if we can go back to the day of when we even thought Gandhi was a good person, you'll recall that Gandhi, one of the things he did to meditate was to thread cotton, right? He would spin cotton. He had loose cotton. He would spin it into thread on a little wheel, and he would just do this as a matter of practice, and it helped calm him in those moments. And I have several things that I do. Drawing, there you go, Francie draws. I do a lot of things to help me, center myself and the like. And few things work better, I have found, than stringing my guitars. Now, there's always that chance that you will, smallest string, the E string, will poke you and you will bleed. And you're always working with that. But the danger of it kind of is what I think keeps your attention on the thing at hand. If it was just like nylon strings, I'm not quite sure I would have the same experience, because there has to be a little bit of like, this could go wrong, so you got to focus. And that focus brings you into the moment. Ceramics, great, because you could break it or you could overspin it. Knitting, very good. You created the wrong knot in the wrong place. You ruin the whole pattern, right? It's important to have those kind of things in this. Now, I understand there's a bunch of people going, this motherfucker, at home, in the same way that I'm like tightening strings on this going, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, I'm doing my best to zen myself in the face of these things so that I can keep my wits about me. And it helps. It really does. And beyond just helping, which could just be, placebo. A placebo or a placebo effect helps in some ways. If your whole goal is to just feel better, whether it's helping or not is the other thing. But I'm not looking for a placebo effect in what I'm doing. And I think that's what a lot of people who avoid meditation and the like tend to do, right? They tend to remove themselves from the space, or people who are thinking about meditating, and then they look at it as a dodge or hustle, if we're going to be quoting Ghostbusters all day long, right? And so I think it's crucial that you have something like that. I have 37 things like that, and I'm never short on projects. And I have decided, we've hit 80K, that I'm going to start in an attempt to help everybody bridge past the kind of chase the laser pointer thing, is that I'm not quite sure what day of the week I'll do it. It might just be an after the radio thing on Saturdays, or it might be on Sundays. I just don't want to step on anybody else's toes who's live streaming, even though other people don't seem to show me the same courtesy. I don't do it for you. I do it for me, right? You understand? You watch Al Sparks' Megaworldwide? Well, I will keep the show on the air so that you get that. That's great. But a process, perhaps it's something you could do while you're watching the show. I don't know what it is, but that, something like that. Yep. Yeah, I'm not bitter at all to 50K. Not at all. Just tell them I said fuck off. Yes. With extra cheese. So, the clear the clear aspect of this that we have to focus on, I think, is that there are going to be things that are within your control, and you absolutely have a responsibility to do them. There are things outside of your control, and there's absolutely a responsibility there as well, and that is to broom it from your thoughts. And you cannot have any more attachment to it than you would an intellectual exercise, because you can't do anything about it and you will drive yourself crazy. And that means that you only are operating with 20% of your available psychological energy and capability, and we need all of you is, the more serious the circumstance is, the more calm, charming, well-tempered people we need around. And I've never gotten rage points, so I've never given them. A lot of people online think you get rage points. Operation Mindcrime's a great record. Jigsaw Puzzle's good time, right? Helpful. So if that makes sense, can you tie a good luthier knot on your unwound strings? I like to think so. Although lately I've been working on the guitars that have a tremolo system on it, like a whammy bar, and I've been redressing and rebuilding those. You've seen, if anybody who subscribed to my Substack has seen pictures of it. But I've been doing that just because it's complicated, and that complication excites me and interests me and whatever. Shirtless Hal, when he reaches 100, you got that right. But what I am going to do is do some sort of sideline live streams where I'm working on this stuff, so I can pop up the thing, like while I'm working, and just have music playing in the background, and you guys can just watch me do that stuff, because what the fuck, the world is weird anyways. So I think the act of being calm in and of itself is an act of rebellion in the face of chaos, right? If chaos is the goal, then the only way you can be a goalie in that situation is to deny them the chaos. And if you can't deny the chaos, then the chaotic response, which you have absolutely control over, you don't give them, right? Yeah. So how I'm financially dependent on the stock market, can't control any options stay or go. Well, I can't give financial advice, but I would argue that it's just going to continue to go up because they have more vested interest in that than they do the job market. So it will waver, but it will climb, because everybody else is jumping into our system because they don't know what the fuck everybody else's system is going to do with the tariffs and the like. That's part of Trump's plan, so you can piggyback onto the secondary effects of it. That said, let's jump in and watch some of this craziness today. And let me show you a little bit of what I was talking about with Marco Rubio. He's... for those of you who don't know, USAID's website shut down today, and there was a huge response, of people, of the damage it could do, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, Trump cannot, with a stroke of a pen, get rid of USAID. Can't do it. He can pretend to do it. He can make it look like he's doing it. But what they did was they just took the website offline, put it under the purview of the State Department, and made him the de facto head of it, and then they have to staff it. They'll temporarily staff it, and then they'll realign it, and then they'll punt it out and say they did great work. It's largely a show. It sucks, and they're being dicks. But again, act of Congress. In Congress, even the assholes in Congress are not going to hand the administration their power, because for all Trump's power-hungry attitude, they are just as power-hungry, right? Nobody wants to acquiesce what little slice of the power pie they have, okay? So let's jump in and see what he says. This is comments on him becoming the acting director of it.
Questions, because we're off schedule already. But
tell us what USAID, what's happening at USAID, and how that affects your frustration.
Well, look, my frustration with USAID goes back to my time in Congress. It's a completely unresponsive agency. It's supposed to respond to policy directives of the State Department, and it refuses to do so. So the functions of USAID, there are a lot of functions of USAID that are going to continue.
For those of you, if you'll recall this morning, if you watched the show when Tara was on, I brought up the fact that Joni Ernst and others have talked about this with USAID for a long time. Now, there are reasons why they become non-responsive. In the same way that there's a reason why the Pentagon fails its audits and the like, is because, and the ironic part of it is that it lands on, the Pentagon does this for conservative reasons. You could argue that USAID does this for liberal reasons, and that they're both non-responsive and don't want to tell Congress anything because the ping-pong back and forth, they have long-term goals, long-term security goals, long-term State Department goals. And when you're fighting things like AIDS and poverty and hunger in places like Africa and South America and the like in USAID, it's more than a 2 or a 4 or a 6 year thing. And so there's a reason why since the 90s, they've started to basically just ignore, because they can punt everything through 2 cycles, especially the House, where they'll like some rando asshole who's anti-gay won't want us to be funding like AIDS prevention in Africa, right? They just think it's none of our business, or they think it's paralleled with abortion stuff, like giving contraception and abortion counseling services, that kind of stuff. They all think that that's in line with what USAID does, and in some cases it is, because it's outsourced to NGOs, and they've been fighting at it because of that reason. And because the cycle that USAID does through these through the years is long term, they've developed kind of like a bristly nature towards the House and the Senate, with varying degrees, okay? They have specifically just told them to fuck off, because within a couple cycles, there'll either be some other crisis that will make them ignore it and go back to doing what they're doing. And so they'll get a wild hair up their ass when they're bored, or it's a slow news day. So that Joni Ernst of the world, or even Marco Rubio back in the day, will get this wild hair up their ass about USAID for a few days. And then if they just go, okay, we'll get back to you, by the time they realize they haven't gotten back to them, it's been 2 years and they just forgot about it. And that becomes functional anytime you're trying to dodge somebody who is trying to, pee in the corners as opposed to have actual accountability. The other issue is that as you ping pong back and forth between conservative and liberal, administrations, the policy ping pong would nullify anything that either one of them wants to do. Right? Anything Republicans want to do, if the Democrats rolled in and just made USAID move these things, it would undermine it. Like, no one would make any gains anywhere, right? Now, we have entered a phase where there's this parallel isolationism, an America bad reflex on the hard right and the hard left that have seen them on a parallel track, that wants to undermine America's reach in any country, doesn't trust any of it. Again, thinks USAID is a CIA front, doesn't give a shit, right? Okay. So it's crucial. By the way, share the show out, everybody, and hit a thumbs up to let me show up in people's feed, because we won't, because of the stuff I talk about. I will definitely get suppressed on every platform for how I talk and what I talk about. Period. End of story. And it's okay. I am here, but for the grace of the tech gods. These are free services that I use, and if they decide I'm a dick and want to shelve me because they prefer something else, there's nothing I can do about it, and it's their prerogative. I'm not going to bitch and whine like these lazy motherfuckers on the right. This is just the truth. So, but it's up to us if you do want us to want the show to be seen. So it's going to have to be manual. So, anyways, so USAID, if it ping-ponged back and forth between the priorities of each administration, it would effectively be useless, because the kind of things it's dealing with, like AIDS, like hunger, aren't usually things that end in less than a decade, certainly, and cyclically have different challenges, right? That's what it is. So just letting you know. Why is this button up? Why are you not working, button?
They're going to be part of American foreign policy, but it has to be aligned with American foreign policy. I said very clearly during my confirmation hearing that every dollar we spend and every program we fund, will be aligned with the national interest of the United States. And USAID has a history of sort of ignoring that and deciding that there's somehow a global charity separate from the national interest. These are taxpayer dollars. And so I'm very...
Okay, so he's about to get into what I was telling you guys earlier about all these, one second. Is that it? No, that's not the right one. It's this guy. Okay. All right, hopefully that works now.
Troubled by these...
Hey, my button works again. Good. He's about to get into the fact that they are non-responsive for the very reason that I told you, right? The issue isn't whether or not they can have these documents. The issue is whether, the people at USAID don't trust that these people are asking in good faith. That's it.
Reports that they've been unwilling to cooperate with people who are asking simple questions about what does this program do, who gets the money, who are our contractors, who's funded, and that sort of level of insubordination makes it impossible to conduct the sort of mature and serious review that I think foreign aid writ large should have. We're spending taxpayer money here. These are not donor dollars. These are taxpayer dollars, and we owe the American people the surety.
Also, right side broadcasting, I don't expect much from you guys, but mainstream news, you do realize there are devices now that via AI can remove that exterior noise. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be adding it to my own shit eventually just so that I can peel this shit out. Good Lord.
The assurances that every dollar we are spending abroad is being spent on.
Is he visiting a white noise factory?
On something that furthers our national interest. And so far, a lot of the people that work at USAID have just simply refused to cooperate.
Are you currently in charge of USAID, or are you acting?
I'm the acting director of USAID. I've delegated that authority to someone, but I stay in touch with him. And again, our goal was to go in and align our foreign aid to the national interest. But if you go to mission after mission and embassy after embassy around the world, you will often find that in many cases, USAID is involved in programs that run counter to what we're trying to do in our national strategy with that country or with that region. That cannot continue. USAID is not an independent, non-governmental entity. It is an entity that spends taxpayer dollars, and it needs to spend it, as the statute says, in alignment with the policy directives that they get from the Secretary of State, the National Security Council, and the President. And it's been 20 or 30 years where people have tried to reform it, and it refuses to reform. It refuses.
And by the way, for the record, Democrats and Republicans have, quote unquote, tried to reform it in that regard because they both run into this same circumstance, which is a Republican rolls in, gives USAID a priority, and they've got people in there that are sympathetic to it. They go running with it and they toss some money around, usually under the table stuff to like military dictatorships and that kind of stuff to like buy entry into the country and that kind of stuff under Bush or Bush 1. And no doubt under Bush 2 and Cheney. And then you've got Democrats who are, fighting like AIDS in Africa or trying to, do everything they can to, that was the biggest fight, the biggest singular fight. Also right now, currently, USAID, the biggest outflow of money goes to Ukraine, or at least it was last year. And the part of the reason why the biggest outflow was last year went to Ukraine was because to get all the money out the door that they had allocated, the Biden administration used USAID as the point, right? As one of the hinge points to get that money out the door. It wasn't because USAID was the primary on these things. It was like, okay, if we want to get this money there, there's several ways we can do it, and we're pinched for time. So a lot of it happened at the end of the year, okay? Just so you know. And they're still bitching about that.
To cooperate. When we were in Congress, we couldn't even get answers to basic questions about programs. That will not continue. That's not going to continue.
Elon Musk is called a terrorist organization. Do you believe that?
I've articulated to you my challenges with it, and they go back to my time in Congress. Okay, we would ask them questions. Who does this program fund? Who gets the money? We won't tell you. We don't need to tell you. We're apolitical. Well, American foreign policy isn't apolitical. American foreign policy is to further the interest of the United States. If someone wants to spend apolitical dollars, they should spend private dollars, go start a charity, and you can fund anyone you want. But if you're going to spend taxpayer money, then you need to spend it in furtherance of the national interest of the United States.
Okay, so you get the point. The USAID has absolute value in its purpose. Can it be misaligned from that purpose? Absolutely. When it is misaligned with that purpose, does that give people like Trump and his ilk and Musk especially, who want to get rid of it entirely because of who it helps, gives them ammo? Yes, which is why you want things run by the book. It's why you want to stay within the letter of the law. That's why. Okay, because you don't want to give these assholes an inch, and they will take any circumstance. Like they played up, quote, migrant crime to pepper all migrants and all, especially undocumented immigrants or illegal immigrants with a broad brush. If you don't admit to the violent crime that exists there and you can bifurcate that out, you can separate it, then they'll basically, by grouping them all together, you're participating in the same painting with a broad brush, right? Okay, so you allow them in by doing that, or whatever. The USAID does great stuff, and I'm sure, like every other thing where human beings are involved, it's got some side shit going on. You broom that out and you start from scratch. Okay, so most of this is going to be noise.
States. That's exactly what I said at my confirmation hearing, and this is not my frustration. This frustration has existed now for almost a quarter century in multiple
The 90s. That's what I'm talking about. It's the same shit from the 90s.
Administrations that have gone through this challenge. It's going to stop and it's going to end.
Can you talk a little bit about the Canal conversation you had with the Panamanian president yesterday?
Well, we had a frank conversation.
Right,
what I expressed to President...
Really, what did Frank say?
You know who? Look, he's a friend of America. He is. He's a friend of America. Panama is a strong partner and ally of the United States. As the president has articulated, when we turned over the canal, we turned it over to Panama. We didn't turn it over to China. So you get there, and the Chinese control both entries to the port. Both entries to the port. We have a treaty obligation to protect.
Also, by the way, I'd like you to notice the weasel words there, but this is, let me help you understand how they're doing this. China does not control both ends of the canal. They could if they decided to. And since nobody trusts them, the idea is that they could intentionally, by accident, sink a ship, capsize a ship, or get a ship stuck in one end or the other, or both ends. Or they could have a glitch in the telecommunication system there that would shut it down. Right. This goes to that thing we were talking about this morning, where does Musk have access to these things, or does an ally have access to these things? And once you step past the line, technically, when I'm in this building, I have access to all this stuff. Does that mean I am accessing it? No. Does it mean I could? Yes. Does it mean I can easily? Not necessarily, right? There's all this like wiggle room, and they are using that wiggle room both to give themselves more room to do shit, but also to curtail the argument against it. Just pay attention. It's okay.
The canal if it comes under attack, but our Navy is paying fees to go through there. So I express frustration about those things, and again, I understand that it's a delicate issue in Panama. We don't want to have a hostile or negative relationship with Panama. I don't believe we do. But we had a frank and respectful conversation, and I hope it'll yield fruits and results in the days to come.
But are you pleased, or at least encouraged, with his response about looking into this and especially?
Well, he's made some announcements about the Belt and Road Initiative, which is
right.
Good. I mean, they're the first country in Western and Latin America to end their relationship with Belt and Road.
Well, except if you don't count everybody who didn't get in on the Belt and Road in the first place, right?
We do a lot of other things with Panama that go beyond just the canal. I mean, they've been a great partner on the slowing down the rate of migration on the Darien and coming across the Darien Gap and the like. So I think it was a good visit. Obviously, there's still more work to be done there, but I think it was a very good visit, and it was worth.
Okay. Again, I'd like to remind you guys. Move Trump out of this circumstance. Put him aside for 1 second. And listen to what Rubio just said. And a lot of it sounds like shit that was said under Bush 1, Bush 2. You could argue even Reagan. There's some back and forth in the kind of incendiary language about how stuff is being done. A little over the years. I mean, worse than stuff that happened during the Cold War? Probably not. This is political horseshit. It's the same political brinksmanship that's been around for a long time. There's a little bit of like, I don't know if anybody saw the movie Sudden Impact. There's a scene where Dirty Harry at the beginning of it goes into this guy's niece's wedding, this gangster, and then pretends to have on tape this gangster ordering a hit, and the guy has a vapor lock, right? He keels over, basically has a heart attack, and because he couldn't get him into court, so he just like freaked him out, and the dude had a heart attack, and they chastise him later in the movie for it, and he says something to the effect of that the Tompkins case was at a standstill, and I was just trying to bust it loose. I was trying to dislodge it, right? And the dislodging of it is where you use chaos as the dislodging factor, okay? Most of the time, any sensible person recognizes that life itself will provide you with that chaotic dislodging because you cannot control all the things in life, okay? And so that's where never let a crisis go to waste comes from. You don't want to inject chaos into something because nature will take care of that for you. And when nature shows up with a chaotic situation and wipes out a big chunk of houses or something, and you have to rebuild them, then you add in better fire measures than you may have had before. See what I mean? Does that make sense? Okay. The idea, though, is that there is an impatience amongst the stupid, and that would be Trump's pals and their group around him. Rubio has no control over that chaos at all. He is going to be one of the people that they are chucking chainsaws to and make him spin plates at the same time. I don't care that it'll be very stressful and it'll probably age him 10 years and 3. But I'm just letting you know that's what's going to happen. Okay? Again, dislodge your emotions from this for a moment and listen to what you're actually hearing and recognize that most of what he's saying here is a bunch of dipshittery and politispeak that may or may not have an impact about 20% of the circumstance. Okay? We're not going to war with Panama. We're not seizing the Panama Canal. We're not going to war with Canada. It's $140 billion worth of stuff, and it does matter, and it will affect the auto industry and all that kind of stuff, which means Trump has about 8 days to walk that shit back so he can act like a tough guy and they can wrangle each other and do whatever the fuck they want. But this is no different than his brinksmanship about the debt ceiling. It's no different than his brinksmanship about shutting down the U.S. government. He just wants the same kind of fight without doing it to the United States government. He's just too dumb to know what the ramifications are. That's our biggest concern, is idiots surrounded by idiots. But a lot of this is just distraction, right, Denise? It really is. It just, they're hoping, we're fine with Greenland. Denmark is not going to let go of Greenland. And it's silly, in my estimation. And again, if you did make Greenland part of the United States, ultimately, those people being subjects of Denmark are probably going to have more European sensibilities about, say, something like healthcare, almost more Canadian, if you may, about healthcare. Does that make sense? And so that's one of the reasons why when he brings up make Canada the 51st state, and everybody's like, "Fuck that! That's guaranteed 2 Democratic Congress or senators and a number of Congress people." Holy shit, right? Plus, you'd have to divide it up into 3 states, right? It would Canada, the country, would have to become 3 states. All 3 of those states would have Democratic, senators. It's a fucking stampede of bullshit, right?
Worthwhile visit and a very respectful, and it was one that I think is going to achieve potentially really good things that assuage concerns we have. But time will tell. We'll see. But I felt good about it.
What's your role on Mexico? Will Mexico to pause? If you talk about
well, they're going to send 10,000. Yeah, they're going to send 10,000 border agents. The president's expressed his frustration with the flow of fentanyl and illegal migration. So that's a good step. So the president, I think, is extended.
Okay. By the way, before they even agreed, Biden got 15,000 troops to the border and didn't have to start a trade war to do it. They got 10,000 troops to the border, and migration has already shrunk to a trickle there already. I don't know about you, but if the idea is all these people coming from all over the country and we are flooding people to our border, we've got that covered. Maybe, just maybe, if you're going to get 10,000 fucking troops, send them to the southern border of Mexico. If the idea is that South America is coming up through there, I mean, it's all horseshit anyways, but logically.
By another month, and I wasn't on the call, but my understanding it was a good call with President Sheinbaum, and we want.
By the way, I'm never going to get over Mexico having a President Sheinbaum. It's just there's something so like, all right, we're in a really silly simulation right now. Somebody needs to update this shit.
I want to have a good partnership with Mexico. No, they'll always be our neighbor, and so it's a country that we do a lot of.
Thank you, Secretary of State Mr. Rogers.
Things things with, but we have legitimate concerns about not just the existing, but the rapidly growing presence of dangerous cartels, who in some cases operate as governments in parts of...
Okay, all right. Key language. That's something to watch out for. That, what he just said there. All the rest of what he was talking about, rudimentary horseshit. This is the only area where you might get in a situation where there's an extreme leap into a greater behavior, which would be attacking inside Mexico, just in the same way that we just bombed Somalia, right, to kill the ISIS guys in the cave. If they make the argument that we're not, that the de facto government of these areas of Mexico is not the Mexican government, but the cartels, then declaring war against the cartels like ISIS becomes legally more tenable. Okay, this is very similar to the sort of legalese around enhanced interrogation that we saw. Okay, where they start playing around the edges with language to try and balance it into an area where it's acceptable. Okay, this is something to watch out for. And this is the curious thing is you'll get just as much pushback, I would think, from Republicans on this shit outside of maybe Texas or Arizona where they're trying to appear macho. Because once you start that shit, it gets real ugly real fast. Declare war on the cartels, suddenly all the gang members in the country become soldiers, not just gang members. And so either they are treated like soldiers and we get open warfare on the streets of America, and he uses that to manipulate posse comitatus and habeas corpus, e pluribus unum, that he gets to use those rules because he's declared that a foreign government has soldiers in the country. Okay, that's the issue, right? So this language is crucial. This is again, watch for the signal through the noise. This is more signal. I mean, Warhawk Marco Rubio is being a Warhawk, man. Whoever saw that coming, right, Boston Brian. Well, here's the thing. This isn't. I mean, this is a directive. I don't think it's just him. I know it isn't. This is a strategy of language that Democrats need to be aware of, that Republicans who don't feel like we want to open a war, have literally a battlefield south of the United States. I believe, there is a strategy amongst the Stephen Miller crowd that if America had a buffer zone into Mexico that we declared sort of like a demilitarized zone, it would guarantee the safety of the border in a way that previously we haven't had it. And I don't know how you get around like trucking through that area, if it's just like where you put minefields and crazy shit like that. And of course it moves all illegal migration into the port structure, boats, that's how people drown, airplanes and the like. But this is a serious thing. Okay, tunnels, right. Well, tunnels, these would be very long tunnels. I'm talking about a large stretch of ground. But what I'm saying is, regarding using this language, listen to his language again, okay, everybody?
Cartels, who in some cases operate as governments in parts of Mexico. It's a huge challenge to the sovereignty of the Mexican state.
There you go. All right, so that language isn't innocent and isn't accidental. The brand new Secretary of State is not going to change foreign policy by accident just by tossing out some bullshit about cartels being de facto governments in Mexico. Okay? The thing to watch for, and this may very well be part of this, is if the Mexican government starts shifting troops from the border to the, what is this, sovereign shit? Yeah, well, the sovereignty of if the idea is that they start making the argument, in terms of international law, And again, I don't know that they will, but that's what it sounds like to me. This sounds like part of the chess move. I don't know if it's this year or next, but the idea being is we're not going to take Mexico. But the idea is, and if you know this again, these fuckers have no original ideas. This is go look at Clear and Present Danger, the fucking second or third Jack Ryan movie. That the idea in this is if we are coordinating with the Mexican government and we decide we're going to finally help you broom these fuckers out, that would be like a war of machismo that would start on our southern border. I'm telling you, that's I'm telling you, I'm talking kind of in the language that they would use amongst them, right? That they would look at the cartels and some of the shit that's happened, the fucking Mormon families that were shot driving through around in cars. Anybody drives in certain areas, they're going to get killed. There's a similar push all around South America, and there's an acceptance of this kind of stuff in South America. If you look at was it El Salvador? The Bukele. Hold on one second. Oh, I was about to push the buttons on my thing and I don't have one. Hold on. Let's see. Yeah. Bukele. Yeah. I gotta look at the history of this. I want to show you something. I hope it wasn't too long ago there is an understanding amongst, where is it? One second. I'm just talk amongst yourselves, chat room. I want to gather up. There's that. Yeah, here it is. So it's El Salvador. Okay, so this is the standard circumstance that's happening right here. I want you guys to look at this. So remember how we were talking about how like Trump is like, Venezuela's crime and all these guys, their crime has gone down because they're just releasing everybody in their jails and just dropping them off in the United States. No, they aren't. They are locking them up in mass. Hold on, let's see. This is Bukele. They had miss. Let's see if I can find a. Yeah, that's him. That's Bukele. Whoops, hold on. Where is he? There he. That's him. That's Bukele. There he is talking to the UN, and this dude, because the MS-13 and what was it, something 18. I forget what the other gang was, but they created CCOT, this giant, like, criminal housing facility. So this, no, he just had the Miss Universe pageant there. Yes, Bukele is not a dictator, he's democratically elected. Agreed. But he is accused of acting in a dictatorial way. But the problem is, and this is where he gets away with it, and again, this is why this languaging is meaningful, and it's why you need to pay attention to what Rubio says and how they might possibly act on it. This is where people are going to have to be aware, and especially lawmakers in this regard, what it will mean, because there's a big difference between us helping through the FBI or Interpol or whatever to deal with gangs in Mexico and a giant military exercise. And there's a thin line between both those things happening, right? And so in this one, this is the journalist in this story goes to CCOT, which is this big housing facility for where they keep these folks, okay? 2 miles out, or I think 3 miles out. 3 miles out, this is the checkpoint they go to. A mile later, your phone won't work. There are no phones like that work in that area. Like, yeah, only a hardline phone, and they're run through the system in there so that the gang members in there can't order murders from prison. You can't sneak a phone in because it won't do you any good. The irony is I don't know why they haven't thought to drop a transmitter in the woods someplace, but if it showed up, they would hunt it down and kill it or whatever, because you could trace the signal, I guess, maybe. But Anyways, these are these guys coming in, and then I think they show it. Yeah, if you go in there, they look at it. That's they have signal going down there, and then it goes to SOS right there. So this is CCOT. This is the place. Okay. So inside here, they meet up. They got a bunch of journalists. They get to have a tour of it, and these are the dudes they got in there, and they make them show off all their gang stuff, and there's the 18 and there's the MS-13, and they used to kill each other, and now they're living together. None of them have any privacy at all. There are no ceilings in their cells. There are guys walking along the top all the time. It's like a fucking sci-fi movie. And there are no mattresses. They sleep on planks. That's the thing they wash themselves in. That's the solitary confinement place. That's the only light that comes in is through that. That's for attacking a guard or planning on killing somebody else or trying to escape. But for the rest of it, they don't care. They practice all the time. That's what shows this. This is their fallback room where their weapons are. Okay? All the guards cover their faces because if they go home and if they're seen in this thing, they will there's all the people you can see their faces are all it's either the warden's the guy in the corner, and then the rest of the people are all media. This guy works here, okay? He covers his face at work all the time so that nobody outside can figure out who he is and leverage his family to help their friend escape or start a big riot that knocks you down, whatever. So all these guys have to wear a fucking mask to work, except that's the warden dude. So the medical guys don't worry about showing their faces because people rely on them to survive. So the guys in the yellow shirts and the guys with the red vests, those guys are either food and medicine. So the idea is that even though they work there, nobody holds it against them, and they don't have any access to security. So they make sure that the prisoners get their medicine and they get their food. Okay, I want to show you this for a reason. So that's the dude handing out medicine. So in all these, and they have to sing hymns twice a day or something. It's the only way they get out of it. It's very strange. Okay, so this is a guy who speaks to everybody, and they got a medical treatment, and he's like, I'm being treated pretty well here, blah, 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 blah. Obviously are, because these guys would kill each other. That guy says he's innocent, and so they blur out the faces. I mean, they did this whole thing. They also went through, this is kind of important, MS-13, right, there are tombs to the people who were killed in the gang wars in these in these grave sites all over El Salvador. So Bukele had them come in and smash the tombs. So everybody who had MS-13 logo stuff on their headstone, they smashed them. They took them down. They didn't take the bodies up. They don't want these monuments. Why are you showing us this ugly? I'll tell you exactly why, Eileen. Because there is sympathy all through El Salvador about this whole thing. Initially, they're like, ugh, this is terrible, but these people would murder people, kidnap people, all this kind of stuff. And so El Salvador decided they had enough. And right now, you can't go to Mexico anywhere deep into the country outside of, say, Tijuana or just over the border in some place without getting kidnapping insurance, and it's very dangerous. And it's more dangerous even than, say, places that are further south, okay? And so that, as a precursor, speaks to why the Mexican people and their elected representatives might play nice with an extreme action by the Trump administration to carry out military strikes inside the country, and they might tacitly approve it. I'm not saying they're going to, but this speaks to where like the public's attitude has peaked. Okay? Arizona Sunflower says, always about the money, nothing more, nothing less. I'm not quite sure what you mean in terms of this. I mean, again, if you look at the gangs as a business, they were overwhelmed. It was like a hostile takeover of every business in the country. So they were the gangs are the BlackRock of El Salvador. So they go through this. These two ladies come to find the grave of somebody that they were there to visit. And when the guy asks them who they're there to see, they're like, I don't know anybody in here, and they leave because that person was a gang member, and being associated with them, you might be asked a couple questions. So they split. This is, and again, this is a pretty balanced, report. That's why that happening in El Salvador, that's extraordinary. So the cartel itself, in that regard, the MS-13, and well, I mean, technically those are gangs under a cartel, or they align themselves with it, and the Mara, at 18, somebody will remember in there, but their violence got so extreme in El Salvador that they treated it as a military option, that it got so armed and so in control and so powerful that the only way they could broom it out of the country was to act as though they were dealing with a foreign government that had invaded, okay? And that language is what made what they did legal. Okay? So I'm specifically saying that this language from Marco Rubio is the State Department, and if you want to use the boiling frog concept, this is them starting to turn the heat up slowly on the acceptance level of, well, are we really bombing Mexico if we hit this area? Okay? Right? And do we ask permission after, or do we go, this is in our national interest, and we just force Mexico to accept this? These are, that's why the language is meaningful, okay? That makes sense? Okay. I'm just trying to, catch people up on why, of all the shit he talks about in this is the only part that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up, and why you should pay attention. And it really probably boils down to how committed. Hey, Deja, no. Nobody, leave that shit out. Get the fuck out of here with that. Simmer. This in and of itself, and this isn't, and I'll carry even further. The Bukele guy and the people of El Salvador, they made this decision. He's in El Salvador too. I would like to remind you. He's in El Salvador at a plant. That's part of the reason why him saying this now here means something. Okay? Right? Okay. So he's not saying this because fuck it, let's just bomb Mexico. It's not that flippant. Right? Okay? It's based on something. If it was just flippant, everybody would say, "That's fuck up. Go away." Okay, bye. Don't wish death on anyone in my chat. Pull. Bye. Ever. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. There's plenty of places on the internet where you can go hope people will die or actively root for it. Get out of here. Anyway, so point being, if it was flippant and meaningless and there was no root to it or there was no appetite for it, we wouldn't have to worry about it. Does that make sense? But he's in El Salvador saying this about the cartels in Mexico being a de facto government. That means there's an appetite for it both in the administration, possibly in the Mexican government, and those troops gathering and our troops at the border could be a thing. More than just a bunch of dudes sitting around unfurling razor wire. Okay? This is why. And Jay says CIA wet dream. This has nothing to do with the CIA. This is not the CIA. The Central Intelligence Agency has very little to do with cartels or the integration of the bifurcation of governing in Mexico around this. I think the only thing the CIA would be interested in would be the fact that Russia's biggest embassy in the world is in Mexico City. Okay, let's continue.
And so we seek to be good partners in that regard. I think deploying 10,000 National Guardsmen on the Mexican side from Mexican National Guardsmen is a very good sign. I'm not sure it resolves all the issues that were raised, because beyond that, there's some trade imbalance issues the president wants to address. Obviously you saw the result of that.
Will you travel to Mexico?
Will I travel to Mexico? I'm sure I will, but we're not planning to as part of this trip. Obviously, things can change on any moment, but right now I've been in touch with their foreign minister. We have started a pretty good relationship, and I'm sure we'll be talking or seeing them very soon, but it won't be, as of this moment, there's no plans for this trip. And I know some of you that are traveling with us want to know the answer, but we don't have any plans at this moment.
A lot of the money that USAID.
Also, more than likely, if there's a meeting between, like the, I don't know, whatever, the Mexican foreign minister or whatever, they will come to the United States.
He spends it. That's critical.
Like if we start a pissing contest, and this is, you want to talk about like action movie scary? We start a genuine business fight with the cartels, for example, where they're talking about military action. Just straight up bombing the fucking place. And the cartels decide to, make the American people aware of the blood that they will lose in that process. And whoever comes to Mexico to talk to the Mexican government about it gets killed. Gets their car blown up or gets shot at or shot. That shit is a very real possibility. Now, I suspect that this asshole does not want to die in, on a street in Mexico trying to talk about trade shit. But I also suspect that Donald Trump is divorced from reality and doesn't have any connection to what happens to other people. And the separation, for all the, like, JFK was killed by the mob bullshit that's been floating around, there's a lot of overlap in that storyline. Okay. Yeah, Hal is talking clear and present danger shit. Yes, I absolutely am. Yes. And so if you haven't seen that, that's about the president using the concept of clear and present danger, which was a far overreach, to use military action in a country we were not militarily engaged with. Now, the funny thing about, I don't know if it's funny, but the funniest thing about clear and present danger as a movie is that they were going that language. A clear and present danger allows the president so much leeway, it's very dangerous to even use that or allow that to be used. Well, after the authorized use of military force, war on terror language was put into law, clear and present danger was considered a low standard. Like it's like you could say that to almost anywhere. I mean, there were arguments about the authorized use of military force that you could actually use military force inside the United States if a terrorist was on the loose, right? That was the concern, and reasonably so. I mean, you up to this point, we've been counting on Republicans not wanting the military policing inside the United States because they're a bunch of fucking sovereign citizen wannabes and they fear a tyrannical government. And if the government ever changed hands again, the power it would give to the next person would be outlandish and yada yada. But I don't think these assholes are capable of thinking that far in advance. The maggots themselves, not the people in the office, like in state or in the DOD and the Pentagon. They don't want to do it. But all right, Trump is this dumb, but there are people that will yank his chain if he tries shit like that. But outside, firing into Mexico after the Somalia thing, there's an argument to be made, and I can hear them making it. What's the difference between bombing some ISIS guys in a cave in Somalia and bombing some cartel guys in a cave in Mexico? Materially. Right? That's the concern. And now there's a lot of difference, actually, between people who are like making a product that they sell into the United States and are involved in a criminal enterprise, and people who literally just want to blow everybody the fuck up and die with it. Like, there's a huge difference, right, in the threat. But but I don't think they're gonna split hairs about it, right? So this is, again, this is the only thing I would keep an eye out on, this language, and I would, your Congress people. If there's one thing you go is like, I think Trump's planning a war with Mexico. Throwing that around isn't a bad idea when you call him.
As being charitable, I think you use
Whether he is or not.
that word, or welfare for poor countries. Defenders of USAID and some members of Congress say that it's in America's national interest, that it promotes stability or buys America goodwill overseas. So, I mean, what's your reaction to that? Do you think USAID does a lot of that work, but you have issues with some of the specific spending?
Well, my issue, as I said, is, yeah, there are things that USAID, that we do through USAID, that we should continue to do, and we will continue to do. But everything they do has to be in alignment with the national interest and the foreign policy of the United States. And the attitude that USAID...
By the way, if we have one, those are like, I don't even know what the fuck the foreign policy of the United States is right now. Does anybody? Like, it used to be, like, with Trump, you could kind of almost, it was semi-predictable, and like, likes Putin, hates our allies. His biggest fucking dig seemed to be maybe Ukraine, but he liked Zelensky sometimes or something. He never had a hard-on for fucking Canada till all of a sudden, right? Right. Like, at this point, our foreign policy seems to be, why do we have a foreign policy? Like, it seems like he just wants to be an emperor sitting in a chair, and everybody else has to have a policy about how they come to us. That maybe is how he thinks it's gonna work.
has adopted over the years is, no, we are independent of the national interest. We fund programs irrespective of whether it's aligned or not aligned with a foreign policy. That's ridiculous. These are taxpayer dollars. Every penny that we spend in foreign aid needs to be in furtherance and aligned with the national interest and the foreign policy of the United States. So this is not about ending the programs that USAID does per se. There are things that it does that are good, and there are things that it does that we have strong questions about. It's about the way it operates as an entity. And they're supposed to take direction from the State Department, policy direction. They do not. Not only do they not take policy direction, they're completely uncooperative. When you ask questions, when you try to go in and find out, okay, what does this program do? Who's getting the money? Why was this funded? Why are we doing this? Why aren't you coordinating with the embassy or the State Department? Their attitude is, we don't have to answer to you because we are independent. We answer to no one. Well, that's not true, and that will no longer be the case. All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Right. So again, we have no way of knowing how much this is snow because this is all largely internal communication shit. Yeah, just saying. So we shall see what we shall see. Let me bring you guys in for just 1 second, and then we'll go to Trump signing EOs. He created a sovereign wealth fund, which he said he was going to do, which is just fucking, like, he just saw that the Saudis had one and thinks it's a great idea because their fucking economy is doing gangbusters. Cash poor, running out of oil, trying to turn themselves into a effectively Muslim Disneyland because they figure everybody, like Muslims have to make the pilgrimage. So if they can make them come down there and stay, start businesses, all that kind of shit, then maybe they'll have some control. Right, over like that, the dollars that come and go, but they're past oil. Okay, staff chat. Sorry. Yep. Canada got a 30-day delay. Yeah, that's what I figured. You jerk off. Yeah, this is where is it? Here they go. See more. Blink. Tariffs on Canada, Mexico, broad implicated potential integrating automakers, blah, blah, layoffs. Walmart, Best Buy have said in recent months that consumer prices would rise if business pass on cost increases. So Trump, Justin Trudeau announced on Monday the U.S. will suspend plans for 25% tariffs on Canadian goods. Trump later confirmed the deal. For now, a vast trade war is on hold. Yeah, because it was a fucking jerk off. This is stupid. This Of course they paused it. Like, literally, he just did this on a whim because he's a fucking idiot. And he was like, I'll wag my finger and they'll know I'm serious. And then he's like, there's nothing they can do to stop this and blah, blah, blah. And the two leaders focused on Canada's $1.3 billion border plan. The initial announcement for the massive investment was made in December, so it's already been there. Nothing fucking changed. Trump has said the tariffs are needed to get Mexico and Canada to address the flow of fentanyl in the United States. And okay, most of it comes in in the pockets of citizens. In a statement, Trudeau said Canada would be implementing a $1.3 billion border plan that would involve reinforcing the border with new choppers, technology, personnel, enhanced coordination with our American partners, and increase resources to stop the flow of fentanyl. That happened in December. That had nothing to do with this. Trump is getting concessions that already existed. It's a jerk around. So the question remains, he knew this, they knew this. So what was the point? Well, the point was to make the stock market take a dip so your friends could buy it. Is it stupid or is it corruption? Or both? Is it just, chaos and corruption for the sake of it? Because I guarantee he made a phone call like, I'm going to do the things. They don't think I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. And they're like, oh, fuck, the stock market's going to take a giant shit, especially these industries. Anybody on the inside knows whether it's, what comes from Canada, what comes from Mexico, they're going to take an immediate dip. And so... what? Or the people who sell it, the secondary sellers, the retailers that rely on them are gonna, would take a dip and then it would rebound. So you just wait till he says it, watch the dip happen. If you're sitting on cash, you just buy the shit and then you just sit there on fucking Walmart stock and watch it pop back up again. And when it goes back to normal, you sell it. And you just made, a couple $100 million doing nothing. Because he let you know ahead of time, sit on your money for a minute. I'm gonna do this. This is gonna be the scandal of the Trump presidency more than almost any other thing, unless he, of course, sets us up for another fucking pandemic. But I said this, like as soon as he announced this shit, everybody ran into his office going, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" Yeah, well, the stock market's not gonna come up till tomorrow. Because they were waiting on the delay. There's also a dip because of primarily because of the 10% on China, which isn't going anywhere. Like, that's going to continue, and it's going to grow. Just letting you know. So let's see. Let's go here. Here's Trump signing his shit in the whatever. Let me be abundantly clear what we're watching here. Because I think this should, if somebody likes Trump, I can't understand them, but let me tell you, they can't not see this. There's a guy standing there with like a stack of memos from the fucking Heritage Foundation, basically pages out of Project 2025, and Trump is signing them into law as fast as they can throw them in front of him. And if I was conspiratorial at all, I would say it was either because they know he's not going to last very long physically, or they'd make sure of it. And they get to ride the back of the martyr who might, lose track of what he's doing. Or before he does anything they don't want him to do. Right? That's what this reeks of. Oh yeah, he used a giant Sharpie because he's a dipshit. Okay, so here we go.
Thank you very much. We have some very exciting news today. We have numerous fronts are being covered. Before we do that, Will will give me certain proclamations. We'll sign them.
Proclamations, like he's a fucking king.
And you'll hear a little bit about them. Will, please?
Yes, sir. First, we have, for your signature, 5 official designations of special envoy.
And after this, I get pudding, right? Pudding after this, right? You promised pudding.
The first is Mr. Steve Witkoff, who's actually in the room to be your...
Witkoff was with him at the golf course when the other dude was going to take a pot shot at him. He's a real estate dude.
Middle East envoy.
He's doing a great job pretending that he did the deal that Biden's team made. See, How do you spell asshat again? R-U-M-P.
Where is Steve? Steve Witkoff, everybody. He's done a great job in the Middle East. Really great.
Yeah, the whole Middle East. Like, he's helped them. It's not even a desert anymore. Fixed it.
But we'll see how it all turns out. It's complex, but I think he's going to do very well.
Next, we have Mauricio Claver-Carron to be your special envoy to Latin America, sir.
Okay. Good man.
I hear.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have retired General Keith Kellogg to be your special envoy on Russian-Ukraine issues.
Special envoy on Russia-Ukraine issues.
We've made a lot of progress on Russia, Ukraine. We'll see what happens, but a lot of
No, you haven't.
progress has been made.
No, you haven't. There's been no progress. None. So arguably, like some federal aid and the USAID stuff, the point was to cut some funding to Ukraine to bring them to the table to weaken them a little bit. It's not going to work because of the Europeans. We gave them plenty of stuff. They got plenty for the rest of the year. Russia's hit harder by this shit, and the EU will continue to fill them in. You know, with other funding. Just, neither one of these assholes are having a meaningful conversation with him. Why would they? Even Putin's laughed it off, and he's in deep shit.
We got to stop that ridiculous war.
No, you're not. Also, what do you mean stop it? For real. I mean, you know how it could be stopped immediately. Russia could get the fuck out. 91 borders, beat it. Be over right that day. I mean, they'd obviously have a rather big bill for the damage they did, but the fighting and the killing would stop for fucking sure. Even if you stop it right now and you leave them the territory, unless you put peacekeepers in there so that Ukraine feels safe, that they can continue to, they have no reason to stop, like, you know, partisan fighting inside the Donbass, for example, forever.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have designation of Rick Grinnell, to be your envoy for special missions.
Envoy for special missions. This is I guess he'll be in charge of graft. Like all that shit he accused Biden of doing, that's what Grinnell is supposed to do with the Clintons. It's like, think of it as Grinnell is the official version of what Rudy Giuliani was doing for Trump. I'll say the nice shit on the phone. You go tell him the real story in person when no one's around.
I sent him to California to turn on the water. We turned it on. It was not easy because we had to go.
It was a big faucet. Yeah. He needed, like, you know, it's like a can of peanut butter. You needed somebody else. Obviously, Newsom started it for him.
Through a lot of environmentalists that are causing a lot of problems, and we have billions of gallons of water. It was on 3 days ago. You probably saw. It should have gotten a lot of press, but it didn't get much. All we're doing is giving.
It's because the water didn't go to Southern California. It went to Central California, and it's flooding like the basin. Like the farmers are like, "Hey, you got to give us warning. All of our fucking gear is getting flooded, dum-dum."
Los Angeles and the entire state of.
Yeah, no, the water didn't go to Los Angeles, stupid, at all.
California, virtually unlimited water, which they could have done 5 years ago, which I told them they should do, but the environmentalists stopped them, and we opened it, and we did it regardless of the state, and now the state seems to be very happy. I spoke.
Yes, the whole state, very happy. Real quick, let me jump in here real quick. Okay, let's see. Trump, California, water. $2.2 billion gallons of water flowed out of California reservoirs because of Trump's order to open the dams. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers opened 2 dams on Friday. It was not a big faucet, but whatever. In central California, and it let roughly 2.2 billion gallons of water flow out of reservoirs after they did this. Trump celebrated the move, blah, blah, blah. There are 2 major problems, water experts said. The newly released water will not flow to Los Angeles. It is being wasted by being released during the wet winter season, where it will saturate the ground and evaporate later. They were holding extra water in those reservoirs because of the risk that it would be a dry summer. This puts agriculture at risk of insufficient water during the summer months. On Friday, Trump posted that 1.6 billion gallons was being released, adding that in 3 days it will be 5.2 billion gallons. About 2.2 billion gallons were released from Friday to Sunday. The water was discharged from the dry lake bed into the dry lake bed of Tulare Lake, according to a letter from Alex Padilla. Downstream entities use these releases for limited irrigation demand and groundwater recharge. This release is extremely concerning. It's providing zero benefit and putting California farmers at risk of water supply constraints in the coming months. So if there's no water for agriculture this summer, again, Democrats, Padilla did it, but other Democrats need to put a fucking flag in this and go, hey, asshole, we store this water so that we can use it later. These reservoirs were federal reservoirs, and the state of California was not part of the decision making this instance. Nemeth said, we traditionally have a high degree of coordination at the operational level, which really wasn't part of this decision because people were clamoring. They're like, hey, give us some more warning so we can move our fucking gear out of the way. It's just stupid.
With Gavin Newsom, and he's very happy. I almost called him by the other name, didn't I? My little nickname for him. But I think they're all happy. They have a lot of water in California. Too bad we didn't have it about 2 months ago, right?
It's raining. We literally have a fucking storm front coming through that's going to cause mudslides, you dumb motherfucker. And another thing, chat room, if I may, point of order. Hold on, I have to push my button. Chat room, does anybody recall what I said about the cycle of weather and fire in California? Anybody recall what the order of things always is and always has been? Dry season, fire, big rainstorm, mudslides. Like fucking clockwork. And it happens, it's almost like nature knows what the fuck it's doing, and we're just out of sync with it. Right? Did I? Anyways. It's not like I haven't lived there for fucking decades. Jesus. Hold on one second.
By the way, that was a big move. We have, I don't know if you saw the pictures that were released of the water pouring down from the Pacific Northwest.
Hey, asshole, if you blew a hole in the Hoover Dam, it'd be an extraordinary picture. It would just be stupid and dangerous and useless.
In Canada and lots of other places, and it's a pretty amazing sight.
Mr. President, Rick Burnett had a big Friday trip as well.
He had a very big Friday trip. You're right. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, Friday was great. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. What Friday trip? The Friday trip, right. Yep, awesome.
He's a good man, Rick.
Lastly, sir,
and Friday's a good day, and trips are good to have.
We have a designation of Mark Burnett as your special envoy to the United Kingdom.
You know.
Oh yeah, that's right. He made Mark Burnett special envoy to the United Kingdom, not ambassador, because again, a lot of these are like he's just throwing fucking money at people and giving them like sweetheart jobs. Mark Burnett, his old producer from The Apprentice, is now the envoy to the United Kingdom.
Mark Burnett is. I figure he should be good. He certainly.
Why? Why should he be good?
He had done a great job. A friend of mine and very talented guy.
Right, he did you favors, so you're doing him a favor. Fuck you.
Very talented people working for us. I'll hold that one up because Mark gets so much television. We'll hold it up, right? He'll be thrilled.
Yeah, right. That's a big one.
Thrilled to see it. He's going to do a good job.
Thank you.
Why? Based on what? Was he going to finally bring the UK and the United States together help us bury the hatchet about the Revolutionary War?
Yes, sir. Next, your administration has smashed records for appointing large numbers of highly qualified, capable people at all levels.
Yes. Your record from last time was 0, and somehow you've smashed that record and gone into the negative.
Federal government. These are 28 sub-cabinet level officials being appointed to a number of different departments and agencies. Some of them are quite important positions like departmental general counsels. But these are people who have been pre-vetted and have received your approval previously.
Very good.
Excellent. Great people. All of them came very highly recommended. I don't know any of them. And I could read it, but why? How many letters are in Trump, you weirdo?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Also, do you ever cross your T? What the fuck is that?
Next, this is an executive order. Discharges your Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, and your Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, to begin a process that will hopefully result in the creation of an American sovereign wealth fund.
It's a very
Hopefully. That's interesting.
exciting event. We're going to have a sovereign wealth fund, which we've never had. We have a lot of things that create wealth, and you're seeing that over the last 2 weeks. I think we've created more wealth. Other people have created de-wealth. The people, my president.
De-wealth. Yeah, that's a word. Sure. Other people have created de-wealth. You don't want to go with unwealth?
Predecessors. We're creating a lot of wealth. Scott, maybe you'd like to say something about it, and I'd ask all.
Scott, tell me what the fuck this is again. I don't remember. It's a Scott. What is a sovereign wealth fund? It sounds. I like the word wealth, and I know someone has to fund it. And sovereign, does that mean the wealth fund can't be pulled over because it's traveling and it's not engaged in commerce at the time? The sovereign citizen wealth fund.
So, Howard, to say something about it?
Tell me what this is again. I just signed it. I'm about to sign it, but what is it?
Yes, sir. This is very exciting. We're going to stand this thing up within the next 12 months. We're going to monetize the asset side of the U.S. balance sheet for the American people. We're going to put the assets to work. And
I thought that was what Trump was doing, putting the ass hats to work.
I think it's going to be very exciting. We're going to study best practices that's done around the world. It'll be a combination of liquid assets that we have in this.
Oh, so you're basically going to, what, are you going to make a meme coin out of what's in Trump's diaper?
Country as we work to bring them out for the American people.
The extraordinary size and scale of the U.S. government and the business it does with companies should create value for American citizens.
Yeah, it does. In the stuff that it does, which you're trying to get rid of.
If we are going to buy 2 billion COVID vaccines, maybe we should have some warrants and some equity in these companies and have that grow for the help of the American people. So I bring all these things together.
Sorry. So the sovereign wealth fund, what you mean is the U.S. government is going to buy big chunks of corporations, hold stock in these kind of things, so that if it ever gets sued, you could sue the government along with it, I guess, and basically communism or something, right? Isn't this just... Wasn't Glenn Beck freaking the fuck out about like public-private partnerships? That's what this is. The sovereign wealth fund that most countries have has to do with oil and gas and like natural resources. That or maybe to some degree it operates on the same level as licensing for broadcast bandwidth. Maybe.
I think Scott and I will create an amazing sovereign wealth fund for you, sir.
So other countries have sovereign wealth funds, and they're much smaller countries, and they're not the United States. We have tremendous potential in this country, tremendous. You're seeing that.
To be bigger than the smaller countries? True.
What's happened just in a short period of time. And as an example, TikTok, we're going to be doing something perhaps with TikTok.
Fuck you. We're not going to own TikTok through the Sovereign Wealth Fund, you fucking weirdo. They got to sell it in 90 days. The Sovereign Wealth Fund won't even be a thing. I think you even have to pass it through Congress to get it actually done, but you can't start one without an act of Congress, and you're not going to do it before the fucking ban ends. What are you going to do? Just keep punting it until that time? And then what? What is the U.S. buying for it? So let me get this straight. The average citizen is going to have stock in an algorithm that divides the public. And what the fuck?
And perhaps not. If we make the right deal, we'll do it. Otherwise, we won't. But I have the right to do that, and we might put that.
No, you don't.
In the Sovereign Wealth Fund, whatever we make, or if we do a partnership with very wealthy people, a lot of.
Sorry. So you want to kill TikTok because government shouldn't control media, but you want to have a controlling interest in fucking TikTok? Are you out of your mind? You fucking what? Also, maggots, free speechers. You're good with this, right? You're good with the U.S. government having a material interest in a social media company. Why not all of them? Maybe that's the purpose. Maybe the Sovereign Wealth Fund is so that the U.S. government, anytime there's a winner in the stock market, it just starts buying chunks of it. And then what happens if that company starts to fall? Does the stock, like the taxpayer, now have a vested interest in making sure a poorly run company stays on its feet? Look, everyone becomes a military contractor. Jesus Christ.
Options, but we could put that as an example in the fund.
It's a stupid example. It's very dumb. You're a lunatic. Lutnick brought it up. They're both stupid.
And we have a lot of other things that we could put in the fund, and I think.
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of other things. Curly fries. You could Raisin Canes. Stock in NASCAR stickers. I don't know what the fuck.
In a short period of time, we'd have one of the biggest funds, and some of them are pretty large. I must tell you, some of the Saudi Arabia fund is on the large side.
Okay, I brought up the idea that California should have a disaster fund that it does, and it should refuse to give any funds to the federal disaster relief until it is big enough to handle anything the size of what just happened. Should it be about $100 billion, I think, in a rotating amount. So how about each state just says fuck you and has their own sovereign wealth fund? Hold on. Sunny. And by the way, I think this is... What the hell happened to my thing? What's going on? There you go. Wealth fund. Hold on. Size. There we go. It's about $1 trillion. So $952 billion. US 930. The PIF share of the public investment fund of the Saudi Arabia is among the largest sovereign wealth funds in the world. Total estimated assets of $930 billion. Recently, its asset size was revised to $925. Lost money. It's ranked at 5th in the ranking of state-owned investment organizations. The PIF's share of it, I don't know what the fucking... Who's bigger than that? Biggest... let's see. How would a U.S. compare to other... Okay, there we go. How would the U.S. sovereign wealth fund compare to other countries? Well, let's see. Do they have sovereign wealth funds are essentially state-owned investment funds that put... Yes, we know this. Get out of the way. Stupid picture-y thing. Put federal dollars into income-generating assets. Most countries with such funds depend heavily on resource extraction. That's because again, they start these because they don't have anything else. Or they do a lot of oil and gas or minerals. There you go. Or steel or maybe coal. Didn't share any details because they don't know. Is also running a deficit. Other countries, some other much smaller countries, now the United States, tremendous potential. Okay, Norway, biggest one, $1.7 trillion, largest in the world. It invests the country's oil and gas revenues in financial markets, including stock in foreign companies. About a fifth of the government's budget is funded by the income from the sovereign wealth fund. So this is kind of what they're looking at. And the reason they're thinking about doing this is because it's a way of taxing the growth of the stock market and benefiting from it without getting anything. Like this is Democrats have floated a sovereign wealth fund for the United States in the past. Anyways, the idea of making it blind though is the issue. Again, this is why you have presidents, disassociate themselves with their business interests. China 1.3. Bullshit. UAE is $1 trillion. Saudi Arabia has 925. Those are the other big ones. Not surprising. All of them about the sovereign wealth fund invests in the urbanization of Africa, the Belt and Road. Okay, this is just a slush fund they set up. Not quite the same thing. Norway's is based on its oil and gas. Yeah. So again, this is one of his ways of trying to get the tax cut through. Okay.
But eventually we'll catch it. But we're going to create a lot of wealth for the fund. And I think it's about time that this country had a sovereign wealth fund. And these two gentlemen and some others are going to work with them very closely. And they'll be heading it up. And they're going to do a great job. Two highly respected people that have done.
That are going to make sure that whatever we put into it, I and my family and their family know before anyone else so they can get in on the ground floor of the companies that we're going to use. We're going to pick some winners. We're going to pick some losers, and we're going to make sure that the losers get fucked. And if Jeff Bezos isn't nice to me, we're not going to buy stock in Amazon. We're going to do Alibaba. And
unbelievably well in the world, in the real world. So that's a big deal, huh?
This is also his new tick, by the way. That's a big one, huh? That's a big one.
I think it's going to create value and be of great strategic importance.
I think it's going to create value and be of great strategic importance. Cool story, bro. Again, Democrats floated something similar to this, which is like an infrastructure bank. The idea that you would have an investment-based bank that the government could put money into, that the interest on it would always pay for upkeep on the on infrastructure. Sovereign wealth funds, another way of going about that. It's like the Republican versus the Democrat version of doing it, but essentially the same thing. Other Democrats over the years have floated the idea of a sovereign wealth fund, especially in times when the stock market looked great. Nobody brings it up in 2008 and 2009, obviously, but right before it, they're like, you know what?
Mr. President, why is it important for Elon Musk to have access to the payment systems at Treasury?
Well, he's got access only to letting people go that he thinks are no good if we agree with him, and it's only if we agree with him. He's a very talented guy from the standpoint of management and costs, and we put him in charge of seeing what he can do with certain groups and certain numbers. Some of the numbers are horrible, what he's found. 100, think of it, 100.
Oh, this is the Hamas condoms thing again?
$1 million on condoms to Hamas.
Okay, yeah. No, we didn't spend $100 million on condoms to Hamas. We had a Middle East program to prevent the spread of AIDS. And whatever, it's been 30 fucking years.
Condoms to Hamas and many other things that are frankly even more ridiculous. And they're
well, then just make them up.
Finding tremendous waste, really waste more than anything else, I think you could say. Probably fraud and abuse could be added to it, the more standard waste, fraud, and abuse. But they're finding tremendous amounts of really bad things, bad spending. You've been writing about some of it, frankly, and some of the things that they've been doing is just terrible. Elon can't do and won't do anything without our approval, and we'll give him the approval where appropriate. Where not appropriate, we won't. But
great. What's your standard for appropriate, dum-dum? What do you mean? You're an inappropriate human being. That doesn't help. I think it's appropriate that he be able to steal everyone's social security number and put it on a thumb drive and drop it off in Russia. Don't you? Like, what do you mean? The fuck?
He reports in, and it's something that he feels very strongly about, and I'm impressed because he's running obviously a big company. It has nothing to do if there's a conflict that we won't let him get near it. But he does have a good natural instinct. He's got a team of very talented people. We're trying to shrink government, and he can probably shrink
You won't let him near it. It's the fucking Treasury.
it as well as anybody else, if not better. Where
He didn't lock everybody out of the Treasury. He locked everybody out of USAID. That's different. So don't there's a lot of conflation going on in the story. So you only stay upset about the stuff that's actually happened. Don't get upset about stuff that looks like it happened because you're seeing a bunch of things at once.
we think there's a conflict or there's a problem, we won't let him go near it.
Too late.
But he has some very good
So you're going to cut off his defense contracts and his NASA contracts? Good idea.
ideas, and we have a lot of very other talented people also. We're bringing in the most talented people in the world. By the way, we just unrelated, but we have two of the most talented people in the world, the legendary Rupert Murdoch and Larry Ellison. So they are two legends in business, publishing, and probably every other. Rupert is Larry pretty much
old,
in a class by himself, right? I mean, although you may have a couple of bucks more, I don't know, but Rupert is in a class by himself. He's an amazing.
Sorry, so you're just bragging about the billionaire sitting in your office? I would like all the maggots to just enjoy this. Man of the people.
Guy, and Larry is
weird. He's very weird. He's a weird guy. He's weird.
Larry's one of the most serious players anywhere in the world, so it's an honor to have you. This has nothing to do with you people, but they're here, and I thought it would be appropriate. I'm sure you didn't recognize them. If you're all going crazy, they say, "What are they doing here?"
Thank you, sir.
Right. What are they doing there? Maybe say so. Maybe go, they're here to talk about blah, blah, blah. Because by not saying so, it looks sketchy as fuck. Not that you care.
Mr. President, on the tariffs, is there any chance that Canada or China could also get out of the tariffs after you struck a deal with Mexico?
Well, nobody's out with Mexico. We had a great talk with Mexico. And
the whole country? You just don't want to say Claudia Sheinbaum because she's a woman, or?
We had President Sheinbaum.
There you go.
Is a woman. I like her very much. We've had good relationships. But
she is a woman. That is true. All right. Hey, look, broken clock moment.
We have to stop fentanyl from coming in, whether I like somebody or not, and we have to stop the illegal aliens from coming in. I think we've lost 200,000 people on average a year for many years, much higher.
No, we have not. We know how many people die from overdoses, dum-dum. It's a trackable thing. It's not a fucking mystery. I don't know. We found him in his car. He had a fucking needle in his arm. It's a fucking mystery. Like, we know.
Than the 100,000. Could be even closer to 300,000.
No, it can't. Where are these people? What are you talking about? You can't just triple the number of dead people in the United States and go, yeah, probably fentanyl. Like, how do you know? Well, I hit by a car and had, 4th stage cancer, but it was probably the fentanyl that got him. What fentanyl? I don't know. Was the driver on it?
And they've agreed.
Does it count as an alcohol overdose if you're hit by a drunk driver? That would be the math.
They put in 10,000 soldiers permanently, like forever. 10,000 soldiers.
Oh, I've always wondered what permanently means. So it's like permanent. Permanently is like forever?
At their side of the border and stop fentanyl and illegal aliens from coming into our country. They have a big incentive to do. Other than that, we've agreed to talk and consider various other things. We haven't agreed on tariffs yet.
Oh, good. I'm glad they're going to consider various other things.
And maybe we will, maybe we won't. But
more of that leadership.
We have a very good relationship. I also spoke with Prime Minister Trudeau of Canada, and we had a good talk in the morning, but I did ask him a couple of questions, like, banks aren't allowed to do business in Canada. Canada is very tough. Canada is very, we're not treated well by Canada, and we have to be treated well.
Yeah, I know. It's emotional. It's very difficult. Canada's always been, it's so dangerous right there. I mean, they've got their nukes aimed at us. And
banks are not, as an example, allowed. Did you know that banks, American banks, are not allowed to do business in Canada? Can you believe that? And that's,
yeah, it's a small country.
That's one of many things, and we talked about it, and I think we'll win.
They also have different banking rules, just like the UK.
Most of the
Sorry, is there a Wells Fargo branch in London I'm not aware of?
Subjects. But for some reason, a lot of things have been very unfair with Canada.
By the way, there's a Canadian bank that does business in the United States, and a bunch of those app-based banks, some of them are that you keep seeing pop up, some of them are based or were started in Canada, whether they built an American subsidiary legally or whatever. They started that way. So that's what this grind has been about. Besant probably, this is a fucking wild hair up Besant's ass.
Is that in the first term, you deal with people, and after a while you begin to realize, like you learn that Larry Ellison's very tough to do business with, okay? He's a very tough guy. I mean, I'm sure you're shocked to hear that. But Canada is very...
In what way? Why would he be... Oh, I know why. Because he's actually got money and you're a bullshit artist, and so you can't do any deals with him. He just wants to be around you for what he can get out of this administration, but you're not actually going to do any deals with him because he knows you're a fuck-up.
Tough. They're very, very tough to do business with, and we can't let them take advantage of the U.S. They don't take our agricultural product for the most part. They don't take our cars. They make cars, but they basically don't take our cars. And
hey, asshole, they got about as many people as fucking California.
You know, we don't need, and look, I think we're going to have another good conversation today. We're actually speaking at 3 o'clock again, but we don't need that.
And by the way, it ended up being they paused it, and it's going to be a punt too.
Them to make our cars. We don't need them to give us lumber. We don't need them for agricultural.
Yeah, we do. I mean, again, need versus best case scenario or even marginally good case scenario. Do we need the lumber? If we don't want to cut down all of our trees, we do.
Products, because we have all the agriculture we need. They don't take our agricultural product for the most part, our milk and dairy, etc.
Yeah, that's the only thing, because a fucking Wisconsin produces more milk and dairy than all of Canada put together.
A little bit they do, but not much. We take theirs.
Right, because we're bigger than they are, and we use more of it than they do.
And as far as cars are concerned, they took in a big percentage, almost 19% of the market. And, you know, I wouldn't mind making our cars in the United States, so we have a problem there. I'd like to make our cars in the U.S. We don't need Canada to make our cars. With that being said, we're going to have another call at 3 o'clock. We had a call this morning.
Also, our cars, what the fuck are you talking about? These are American companies. But there's a real easy fix to both the immigration issue and the outsourcing issue. Make it a law. Make it against the law to hire illegals, and if you get busted, they don't get in trouble, you do. Right? Be a pretty fucking fix, pretty easy fix for that, right? And the same thing with cars. If you want to, if you either have to subsidize the cost of the cars once they're made in the United States to make the price go down to where people can actually buy them, because the price will go up if they're made here, because of our labor laws, our union rules, our available workers. Or you can pay the companies a subsidy to develop them and make them. I guess that's what this sovereign wealth fund thing will have to do. Because the cars, if they're built here, they just won't be affordable for anybody in the United States. Period. Carrot or stick, motherfucker.
Pretty good call, I'd say. So the call with Mexico went very well in the sense that they're very strong now.
In the sense that everybody else was calling me and chewing my fucking ear off.
The border, they're going to put soldiers there.
Again, Biden got 15,000 soldiers, and he didn't have to start a trade war to do it. What's your problem?
Actually, they're best military soldiers.
They're best. It's their National Guard. Simmer down.
At the border, 10,000.
I'm not saying their National Guard isn't good, but It's not Mexican special forces, you weirdo.
And that's a lot of soldiers, and they want to protect it also. You know, they don't want people running through Mexico, coming through Mexico to come in.
Right. Then they should have put them on the southern border of Mexico.
To our country. So they're going to do that. And then we're going to talk about other things over the next 30 days, we're going to have Scott, Howard, and Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, lead the delegation. And we're going to have a big negotiation with Mexico. I'll be involved too. And President Sheinbaum will be involved to see whether or not we can
Really? Yeah, you think she might?
Work something out on the tariffs.
What about China?
China will be speaking to China probably over the next 24 hours.
On fentanyl in China, President Trump.
We don't want fentanyl coming into our country. Now, we had another big thing, speaking of China. China's involved with the Panama Canal. They won't be for long. And that's the way it has to be. Marco just got back, as you know. He's in the process of coming back. I guess he's almost back.
No, he's not. We just saw him. He's in El Salvador, you dipshit. Listen to the sentence there. Marco just got back. He's in the process of coming back. He's almost back. He might be back. We don't know. Get back. Get back.
Back.
Whoops.
By now. And he had a very hours.
On fentanyl in China, President Trump.
We don't want fentanyl coming into our country. Now, we had another big thing, speaking of China. China's involved with the Panama Canal. They won't be for long. And that's the way it has to be. Marco just got back, as you know. He's in the process of coming back. I guess he's almost back by now. And he had a...
No. He's not in the process of fucking anything, you weirdo. Hold on. All right. Here you go. Should be all right. Let's see. Hold on. Okay. Hold on one second. Okay, done. Excellent. My keyboard stopped working for a second, so I had to re-enter it. Okay.
A very long conversation with the leader of Panama, the respected man.
Oh, yeah, the respected man. You guys have met him, right? The leader of Panama. Yeah, the respected man. Hello. I'm the leader of Panama. I'm the respected man.
And some others.
The others, they're not as respected as I am. I'm the respected man. They're not.
The entire leadership group.
They are all leaders, but they are not respected.
And we're trying to work a deal with the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal was given foolishly years ago to, it shouldn't have been happened, years ago to Panama.
Really? What a weird place. They didn't decide, did the Virgin Islands not get a call, or?
Jimmy Carter and the group.
The group, you mean the entire federal government?
We lost 38,000 people building the
I think we can find them.
Panama Canal, like one of the great wonders of the world. It's the biggest job we've ever built, the biggest project we've ever built in this country, dollar-wise and every other way.
No. We've had, the interstate highway system is a much bigger project. No. It just stands out because you cut through the smallest point in the joining of two continents. It seems like a big deal, but simmer.
38,000 people died, Americans, all men, just about.
Right, because women don't get malaria.
Laborers and construction people, they went to Panama. The mosquito.
And I think those are different things.
Got them. Between mosquito and snakes.
Fucking which one was it? Which was worst? Probably snakes. Snakes and mosquitoes. What if you get a mosquito bite and you're bent over on your ankle and you bend over to scratch it, you get bit? It sucks. Both at the same time. Mosquito snakes are the worst.
38,000 people.
Because you can only hear the females.
It was the most expensive project ever built by the United States. The biggest, most expensive.
Yeah, but it also gave us so much more because of it. Like, it has paid for itself a myriad of times, you silly person.
Expensive project we ever built 110 years ago.
They multiply by masturbation. Here it goes on. Oh, a queen.
If you bring it up to now, it would have been the equivalent of $2 trillion. The most expensive we ever built, and we gave it away for $1, okay? We gave it away essentially for nothing. And we either want it back or we're going to get something very strong.
Something very strong. Like, we're going to set up like a Trump Tower at either end of it, I think. You'll settle for that,
We're
right?
going to take it back. And China will be dealt with.
China will be dealt with. I'm sure that will translate into Chinese very well.
And we didn't give that to China. We gave it to Panama. We shouldn't have given it to Panama. But Panama, as you know, has violated the agreement, totally violated the agreement.
This is the argument they're going to be making. By the way, I'd just like to stop for a second. So in Trump's idiotic misunderstanding about how this shit works, the interpretation of the treaty involving the Panama Canal that the United States signed under Jimmy Carter had incredible flexibility about who could interpret whether someone has broken the deal or not. And it was so flexible that he can just say, they broke the deal, and that's enough. And then we could say, null and void, let's start from scratch, and we're responsible for the secondary funding on it, so it'll back in the day, China didn't have enough money to keep it running. Now, not that they do right now, but they do have enough to fake it for a while.
So that's in the process right now, but they did have a very good meeting with the head of Panama.
The very respected man. With the who? Hold on.
But they did have a very good meeting with the head of Panama.
The head of Panama. The guy, right? The fucking Panama guy. What's his name? Panama Jack. That's what it was. I had one of those shirts when I was in high school. Yeah, these it's a pretty sweet fucking hat. Panama Jack sunscreen. Panama. There you go. I had one of these shirts when I was in high school. This guy right here. Look at that. The sunglasses. That's the hat. That's the premium Panama Jack hat. That's the one. That's how they know that you're ready to do some Chinese business. Whatever the fuck.
In addition to tariffs on China, could you say your current thinking about whether China should be forced to pay reparations both for fentanyl deaths and the million COVID?
No, I haven't talked about that, but they do have tariffs.
He has. He hasn't talked about it with them, but he's brought it up a bunch. He brought it up all during the campaign. This is him wussing out.
Honestly, nobody. The amount of money that was lost and most importantly, the lives lost because of COVID will.
Well, don't sell yourself short. Your mismanagement had a lot to do with it.
It's not something that anybody could ever even imagine. It's probably $60 trillion, and all the countries in the world don't have $60 trillion.
Yeah, they do.
The amount of death and the amount of
you can't take away something unless it existed in the first place or had the potential to exist in the first place. So if China eliminated $60 trillion of wealth in the world, and by killing 30 million people and slowing down the government for the countries for a year, then obviously that money existed in the world flowing around. This is just stupid.
Destruction and the amount of money lost is probably $60 trillion. I had it figured by people about...
By people with calculators, very respected calculators.
3 months ago, I was just said figure.
Angel paste miracle cream? That sounds like a euphemism I would have used in high school to convince a girl to do something very untoward.
Nobody knows what the real number is, but it's almost an infinite number.
Well, no, I mean, it would have to be kind of finite for it to even be a number, I would argue. And we can start on whether zero is an actual number or not, or the absolute lack of numbers. But in infinite means post-numeric. Doesn't. Why am I even arguing this? Look who I'm talking to, Mr. SAT.
The damage done, no, but I have not discussed that. What I have discussed is we'll have some good meetings with China. We have meetings planned.
Great. So you've discussed having some meetings, and you're going to have a meeting about that and stuff. At least you don't talk like a politician.
And we'll see what happens. But
yeah, you know, definitive leadership, hard-nosed.
that was just an opening salvo. If we can't make a deal with China, then the tariffs will be very, very substantial. Okay.
Also, did you rescind any of the Biden ones that we don't know about, like early on? Is that what you're just not enforcing the ones that exist so you can build on top of them? Because 10% on top of the 60% that's kind of running is a lot.
I'm going to sign this one.
Sir, this is
probably.
You've obviously made making America healthy again a key priority this administration.
Yes, one of the greatest things I think he's doing to make America healthy again is not inviting any of us to eat at the White House during one of his fucking gaggles where he serves fast food.
Administration. A key component of that is obviously heart health.
Chemically written bread.
This is a ceremonial proclamation declaring the month of.
Oh, a ceremonial proclamation. Finally, we get to the we move from the illegal stuff to the questionable value stuff to the just blather. I feel like we've gotten through it, kids. He's just down to signing the shit that is just like, I said a thing.
February to be National Heart Month.
February is National Heart Month. It is Black History Month. Also, you might want to sign it before February starts, I guess, or...
We're doing very...
Look at this, everybody. I'm gonna doo-doo.
Very well with nominations. We'll see, but it looks like we're doing very well with nominations.
Mr. President,
really, just generally nominations.
have you been
Do. Nominations. Do.
involved with calling senators who had some concerns about Tulsi Gabbard or
Yes.
RFK?
Yeah, I've gotten great response. And they want
to... Because no one who doesn't like her is calling you?
Do what's right, and we've had a good response. I think we'll do well. We have great people like this. We have great people coming in. I'd like to say the best ever recruited for government. I think we have the finest people ever recruited for government.
If your goal is to destroy that government from the inside.
Will it take an act?
No argument.
Congress.
And you know what? You're starting to see that because we've done more in 2 weeks than Biden's done in 5 years, 6 years.
Hey, asshat. Infrastructure Act. Nothing comes close. Chips and Science Act. Nothing comes close. Rescue package. Nothing comes close. So, look at his face. Bunch of fucking EOs and like dicking around at agencies and just fucking with people.
They could be here between him and Obama. You add it up, okay? We've done more in 2 weeks than they've done in 12 years.
Will it take an act of Congress?
ACA and the Infrastructure Act. Go fuck yourself. Like, both of those are real laws on the books doing real good for real people. No, you haven't. And again, what do you mean just by volume? So you're going to put a bunch of, like, declaring February Heart Month up against the Infrastructure Act, the first infrastructure bill signed in almost a quarter decade. More than a quarter decade.
Do away with USAID, or do you believe you have...
I don't know. I don't think so. No, not when it comes to fraud. If there's fraud, these people are lunatics. And if it comes to fraud, you wouldn't have an active Congress. And I'm not sure that you would anyway. But we just want to do the right thing. It's something that should have been done a long time ago. It went crazy during the Biden administration. They went totally crazy what they were doing and the money they were giving to people that shouldn't be getting it and to...
Like who?
Agencies and others that shouldn't be getting it. It was a
just agencies? So agencies upon agencies? This is like agency on agency crime?
So they're tremendous fraud, but we'll be doing...
Like? Tremendous fraud. I mean, look, if it's tremendous fraud, it should be easy to just kind of like drop one right there. Just fraud. Not just shit you disagree with, not priorities you don't share, but fraud. Now, why does Trump want to throw the word fraud around? Maybe to water down what the actual term means? I can't imagine why.
report. We'll be giving you that report at the appropriate time.
And by the way, I would like to say for the record, if February is Heart Month, does that also make it the Kidney Month as well?
The kidney has a very special place in the heart.
Ah, yes, in the Heart Month, right? Yes, yes. Thank you. Somebody brought up the PACT Act as well. Something that Jon Stewart, allegedly gave a shit about until Democrats passed it, and then suddenly it's a fucking wash again, and it's really a jump ball who's good and who's bad in Washington.
In the first term, though, USAID was something that you liked in some respects.
I love the concept of it.
Had some programs.
Sure. I love the concept, but they turn out to be radical left lunatics. And the concept of it is good, but it's all about the people.
Mr. President, you said you also want to impose tariffs on the EU. What kind of tariffs?
Also, if they're radical left lunatics, again, you're using the extreme front, wouldn't it be easy to describe something that's, lunacy, by the way, and something that happened recently, not stuff that's been going on since AIDS, came onto the scene, where you're just taking countering AIDS policy, or efforts made to counter AIDS in the world and showing up in different agencies and stuff and just nitpicking elements of it and going, we're doing LGBT diversity training for the Taliban or whatever, when you're really just handing out condoms.
Well, we have massive deficits with the European Union, massive, like $350 billion if you can.
Yeah, but they're not like different countries buy different shit. Some of them are very poor compared to us. Some of them are reasonable and don't need our stuff. What are you talking about?
Believe it. They don't take our farm product. They don't take our cars. They don't take almost anything, but we take their cars. We have millions of cars coming in, BMW and Mercedes-Benz and
fucking American consumers fucking it up for everybody again.
Volkswagen and just so many.
Volkswagen's owned by the Chinese, right?
Different cars, and we don't do anything about that. And
yeah, we do.
We don't charge them tariffs. They make it impossible to sell cars in the European Union. They make it very difficult, agricultural product. They actually don't take it. And they have a lot of excuses. Some of them are the pesticides and the different chemicals.
Weird.
Used. And Bobby Kennedy actually is...
He's going to get rid of them here? And then suddenly you won't have to... It has nothing to do with a fucking trade war? And we can have the same kind of foodstuffs here that they have in Europe all of a sudden? So basically you're going to make America like Europe in this area? Something that Democrats have been talking about for a long time? Have at it, motherfucker. Good for you. Look at me. I hope you're successful, dipshit. I hope you and Bobby Kennedy, I hope that you fail at the vaccine shit that you're trying to fuck with everybody. But if you if his whole focus is getting rid of pesticides and all that kind of shit, which is already in process because they're going to switch to lasers as an AI as a form of pesticide going forward. Everybody knows it, and that they're going to pat themselves on the back for just being here when the clock ticks by. But whatever. Knock yourself the fuck out.
Look into that very, very seriously, because maybe it's not necessary to use all of that. We want to be the healthiest country, and we're not. We spend more money on food than anybody else in terms of its creation, but we're not the healthiest.
In terms of its creation? What do you mean? In processing it? That's not even close to true.
Country. So maybe there is something to the fact that we shouldn't be using so much chemical, and maybe that'll stop. But
so much chemical. I think nothing shapes up, our show, and it kind of brings us to a close more than Donald Trump's sort of understanding of chemical additives in food by talking about how much we use too much chemical. Singular. Whatever that chemical is, we've got to get rid of it. Once we get rid of that one chemical, fuck. Yes, that's running parallel to him on RSP.
Bobby Kennedy is the one, because he is not a believer in all of the things we have done, and neither are the Europeans. So,
okay, See what I mean about like some of the things where like as Democrats can come out and go, hey man, hey, that whole thing you're talking about, let's do that shit right now. Because Democrats in blue states that are not, beholden to big agribusiness, for example, like they are in Florida or like they are in the center of the country, are 100% on board with getting rid of chemicals like that, right? I don't have a problem with that. You don't have a problem with that. Just because he suddenly woke up to it because of, they're surrounded by all these dipshits that suddenly it matters to them, right? Okay. That doesn't, like, if he's finally woken up to the idea that chemical additives in our food are a bad thing, and Republicans are finally waking up to that shit now, I'm not against it. Knock yourself the fuck out, dummy, and then explain to maggots everywhere how you're just finally getting around to doing what Democrats have talked about forever, which is why do we have all these chemical additives in our food when Europe doesn't have them? This is a Democratic talking point. And I think now, will he receive this congratulation in an obvious and clean way? No. And I think a lot of it will just make him paranoid as fuck, right? And that's fine too. He can either go, oh, look, I'm doing something that everybody likes. Or he can go, why do those people like it all of a sudden? I don't like that, right?
We'll see what happens. But they use it as an excuse not to buy our product.
It's not an excuse. It's a reason, dummy.
And I asked a couple of the leaders, I don't want to use names, but how many...
Because you can't remember them?
Chevrolet...
Just say the respected guy.
...or Fords do you see in the middle of Munich? And the answer is...
It was Angela Merkel. He asked this person. It was a long time ago.
None, because they don't take any cars. They don't take anything. So the European has abused the United States for years.
The European has? What's his name? We got to talk to this fucker. Where's he from? Probably Hungary. Bosmag.
And they can't do that. And they want to make a deal. Let me tell you, in all cases, they all want to make deals. There's nobody that doesn't want to make deals. They've been abusers, and they want to make deals. So we'll see about that. But
so the abuser wants to make a deal all of a sudden, and you trust this person?
We'll have, I think, some very fair... All we want is a fair deal. And, there's a word, reciprocal. I'd go...
There is.
Right now, reciprocal tariffs on everybody. Because many of the countries that you feel so horrible about, the way they're being treated by Trump, you're saying, oh, President Trump is so terrible to them. Well, they charge us tariffs. European Union has a VAT tax, which is through the roof, okay? It's a similar thing. Similar.
No, it isn't.
To a tariff. It's a VAT. And they have it.
Yeah, they keep it in a big, it's like a big barrel. What the fuck?
And it's numbers like you wouldn't believe. And Canada.
Yeah, I would. Hold on one second. Thanks, guys.
I told you about the banks, and I told you they charge us. And people don't say that. They don't like to say it. Just like they don't like to say that I opened up the water for California. It's a great thing.
You mean you used up the water during the rainy season so that we won't have any if it's dry this summer, and you fucked the farmers who voted for you? I don't want to hear shit from them in the summer. I don't.
It's too bad they didn't do it themselves. I had to do it, and it was not easy. We did it a very rough way, and I didn't like to do it.
They're like, get the fuck out of the way. Gibberish.
A rough way. We shouldn't have to do it a rough way. But a lot of these countries that we're talking about, they're so-called allies, but they don't treat us well. And just like I got $420 billion, and now it's actually over $600 billion, the Secretary General of NATO came in 2 weeks ago, and he said it was a miracle when President Trump came into NATO, I got...
Oh, okay. So the thing that happened 3 years ago, or 5 years ago, or whatever it was, happened 2 weeks ago now? Yeah, not nuts at all.
He said it was $636 billion by saying to them, no, you have to pay. And if you don't pay, we're not going to be there for you. Somebody has to say it, and they paid. and it was a large amount of money. And one of the problems we have with the Russia-Ukraine situation is that we wanted to see some equalization, because we're in for close to $300 billion, and they're in for $200 billion less. Why are they in for less? Because Biden never asked them for money. He never said, you got to pay. He never did. All he did is hand out money. So we're talking with them right now, and we're actually working some deals right now. So we have some guarantees and some other things to keep that whole situation to go, really going. I mean, going.
He's talking about funding the Ukraine side of the war. Using the Europeans, he's just going to, again, this is the backup that Biden set up in place. He doesn't want to say it, but everybody around him is actually going, yeah, you can't let Russia win this thing. They're dangerous and fucking crazy. And I know you used to like him, but he's a fucking lunatic. And he's actually like starting to listen. This is going to be, you watch, when it becomes abundantly clear that he starts siding with Ukraine in this circumstance because he either doesn't want to be associated with Putin because he's a loser, or they recognize that from a military industrial complex idea that that's the side the butter is on the bread, that like you watch the maggots blow up.
We're telling Ukraine they have very valuable rare earth. We want what we put up to go in terms of a guarantee. We want a guarantee. We're handing them money hand over fist. We're giving them equipment. European is not keeping up with us. They should equalize. Look,
European isn't? European? The European guy? Who the fuck is this guy? We got to get him on the phone. Whatever his language is, I can learn to speak it in a week.
We have an ocean in between. They don't. It's more important for them than it is for us. But they're way below us in terms of money. And they should be paying at least equal. They should really be paying much more than us, but let's say equal to us. And they're billions and billions of dollars below. So we're looking to do a deal with Ukraine where
billions of dollars below. I like him because he speaks just like me, using words and stuff.
They're going to secure what we're giving them with their rare earth and other things.
Okay, hey asshole. First of all, you mean rare earth minerals, which aren't rare at all, actually. They do come from the earth. But, obviously, your sovereign land is rare compared to all the other land on earth. I suppose maybe that's what you mean. Their borders? That's just fucking weirdly dumb.
This morning, was that partially related to the market reaction and a criticism from Mr. Murdoch's own newspaper? He called it the dumbest trade war on the
ouch, sitting right there
on the editorial page on Saturday.
I'm going to have to talk to him. I've been right over the Wall Street Journal many times, I will tell you that.
No, you haven't.
I don't agree with him on some things. No, it's not only is it not dumb. You're going to see. Every single one of those countries is dying to make a deal. You know why? Because they're ripping us off really badly. And the United States is tired of just being ripped off. And that's why we have $36 trillion in debt. We have it for a reason.
No.
Because we make bad deals with everybody. And we don't allow that anymore. So the Wall Street Journal is wrong.
He's responsible for a third of the debt. So he's trying to undo that shit because nobody in the Republican Party wants to extend his tax cuts unless he can bring the budget down and bring like the debt down. And so if he spends the next fucking 3 years, it's like they promised him, like if you can try everything you can to bring the budget deficit down. We don't give a fuck who it hurts. As long as you bring that down, then we'll give you the tax cut you want.
Very simply, every single country that you're writing about right now is dying to make a deal because the deals they have right now are so good and so good for them and so profitable for them.
You mean the USMCA?
You didn't know that Canada didn't allow our banks. You didn't know all of these different things.
Well, apparently neither did you when you made the USMCA, which you said was the greatest trade deal in the history of the country. And apparently it sounds worse than fucking NAFTA.
And I think in the end you're going to see that either very
that this was all bluster and bullshit.
Substantial tariffs are going to be paid by them, or they're going to make some kind of a deal.
Sir,
Or did Mexican President Sheinbaum?
Did what?
Did you blink this morning?
There was no blinking. No, she's a wonderful woman, but she did agree to 10,000 soldiers on the border. I would say that's a lot. Would you say that's pretty good? 10,000 soldiers on the border?
Sir,
and the 10,000 soldiers are going to keep illegal aliens out, and they're going to keep them out seriously out, and otherwise they're going to have
As opposed to hilariously out?
a big penalty. Mexico's going to be penalized. They're not going to come through Mexico anymore, and they're not going to let the fentanyl come in from China. And China hopefully is going to stop sending us fentanyl. And if they're not, the tariffs are going to go substantially higher.
Sir, just to clarify, when you said about Ukraine earlier, the rare earths, is that something you want them to give the rare earths to the United States?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I want to have security of rare earth. We're putting in hundreds of billions.
Jesus Christ. Look, rare earth minerals is a stupid phrase. But it's not about rare earth. Please just, is it too much? Do you think he, okay. Do you think he actually understands that the word minerals is kind of crucial to the idea?
Billions of dollars. They have great rare earth, and I want security.
Fuck me. This is the new scourge, isn't it? Jesus Christ. Say rare earth again, motherfucker. Say rare earth again. What are you talking about? All of earth is rare, you dumb motherfucker. Rare earth. Say rare earth again. Huh?
Security of the rare earth.
All right. Okay. Rare earth. There we go. Just rare earth. Just chunks of earth that are rare. Like what? The Bahamas?
And they're willing to do it.
They do what? With the rare earth.
President, on Canada, when you talk to Justin Trudeau again, is there anything he can give you at 3 p.m. when you talk again to also secure a pause,
I don't know.
like you said with Mexico?
I don't know. I'm so desperate for, he can stop fucking my wife for starters.
I don't know. We have big deficits with Canada, like we
Yeah, but they're a smaller country. We buy a lot. We have a bigger economy than them.
do with all countries. I mean, I look at some of the deals made, I say, who the hell made these deals are so bad? But with Canada, I have a talk with him, and you maybe know or maybe not. We're going to meet again or talk again at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Whatever. Meet, talk, doesn't really matter.
Right after my next meeting.
You got a meeting, do you? You got this meeting. After this meeting, you're going to have another talk after the you have another meeting, will you? It's great.
And we'll see what happens. I
Anything
can't
on
tell
the
you what's
banks
going to happen.
You mentioned that he could
That I believe.
agree to change your mind on the tariffs?
Well, we can always, but look, what I'd like to see, Canada become our 51st state. We give them protection, military protection.
From who? What do you mean we give? They don't border fucking Russia, you weirdo. And the protection we allegedly give them is to protect us. What the fuck?
We don't need them to build our cars. I'd rather see Detroit or South Carolina or any one of our, Tennessee, any one of our states build the cars. They could do it very easily. We don't need them for the cars. We don't
Yeah, we understand the technology exists. It's the cost.
need them for lumber. We don't need them for anything. We don't need them for energy. We have more energy than they do. We don't need them for energy. So I say.
Well, then here's the thing. Don't write a thing that says they can't, say, transport their stuff through the United States, through their pipelines that they've got going into the United States. Just force the sale to other people. Don't buy it.
Why are we doing this? Why are we willing to lose between $100 billion and $200 billion a year? We don't need.
We're not losing it. We're just buying more of their shit than they are of ours because we're a giant fucking country.
As a state, it's different. As a state,
it would be 3 states, and they would all have Democratic senators.
It's much different, and there are no tariffs. So I'd love to see that, but some people say that would be a long shot.
Kinda.
If people wanted to play the game right, it would be 100% certain that they'd become a state. But a lot of people don't like to play the game because they don't have a threshold of pain, and they would.
I see. So what do you mean? Chicken or what are you thinking? Russian roulette?
There'd be some pain, but not a lot. The pain would be really there. So we're going to meet again by phone at 3 o'clock, and we'll let you know.
On Israel, President Trump, you're prepared to meet with Benjamin Netanyahu.
By the way, this is gibberish. There's no Canada's 51st state. Silly. Just don't even, water off a duck's back. He's an old fart. He's crazy. This is not going to happen. But it's part of the whole, scatter shot. He's if he has developed a skill over the years, it's distracting everyone by throwing out these fucking bones of insanity to the media so that they chase them down. Don't be fooled. There's no 51st state nonsense through Canada or Greenland, any of that. He wants this big, one of these things, he wants his name on the wall.
Coming in tomorrow.
Yes, you've mentioned in the past you're concerned about Israel being too small geographically. Would you support annexation of parts of the West Bank by Israel?
Well, I'm not going to talk about that. It certainly is a small. It's a small country in terms of land. See this pen, this wonderful pen? My desk is the Middle East. And this pen, the top of the pen, that's Israel. That's not good, right? That's a pretty big difference.
Brilliant. You know what you could do? Open the pen up and draw a big spot on the desk, and you'll make Israel big enough to nuke a hurricane.
I use that as an analogy. It's pretty accurate, actually.
No, it's terrible. It's ridiculous and silly.
It's a pretty small piece of land. And it's amazing that they've been able to do what they've been able to do when you think about it. There's a lot of good, smart brain power, but it is a very small piece of land, no question about it.
What the fuck does that have to do with whether or not the West Bank exists after this? By the way, that's what they're talking about. He wants to get rid of them.
You said earlier that Elon Musk is doing everything with your say-so. So is there everything that he has done thus far, going to all the agencies, shutting off access, getting access to federal payments, that all has you're okay with all of that?
For the most part, yeah. If we, if there was something that didn't have my okay, I'd let you know about it really fast.
And you said
no, you would not.
There are some areas where you wouldn't let him work because he has conflicts of interest.
If there was no, I haven't seen that, and he would know not to do it. So we haven't
really
had that yet. But if there was a conflict, we would let him work in that area.
Earlier you said in regard to Panama that they were going to make a deal where the U.S. is going to take it. How long do they have to make that sort of deal, and are you still meeting on the table?
We're going to meet with Panama on Friday at about 3:30 in the afternoon by phone. And
so apparently 3:30 in the afternoon is when he has phone calls, and so nappy by and signing things until then.
Maybe there'll be some representatives that, here or there. But we're going to be talking to Panama on Friday, essentially.
Essentially.
And they've agreed to certain
in the 24 hours that most people regard as Friday
things, but I'm not happy with it.
On the Middle East, Mr. President, if I may, do you still have doubts that the ceasefire will hold?
On what?
On the Middle East, do you think the ceasefire will hold?
I have no assurances that it'll hold. I mean, I've seen people brutalized. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. No, I have no guarantees that.
Okay, so we talked earlier about teeing up my the hair on the back of my neck. Okay. When he talks like this, what it seems to be is that the argument or the plan that he and Netanyahu worked out is we'll do a big trade of prisoners for our people. Once we get all the hostages back that are alive, or the vast majority of them, or we cross over this thing, then we go, when they tell us, that's all we got, the rest of them are dead. Then they go, well, that's a violation. We think you're lying. Back to bombing, and you kill all the people you released by just bombing the area again. You put them, where they are. God knows you could have put trackers in their belongings, all kinds of shit. Who knows? and then you just continue with what you were doing. And who cares if they were released? They're never going to leave where you sent them to. Right? That would be my concern. And this language makes me think that that's part and parcel to the direction they're headed.
The peace is going to hold. Steve, you might want to say something about that. Steve Woodcock.
It's holding so far. So, and we're certainly hopeful, and that's the president's direction. Get the hostages out and save lives and come to hopefully a peaceful settlement of it all. So far it's holding.
Mr. President,
a peaceful settlement of it all. I mean, I don't want to, like, over-dissect, but...
topic, questionnaires have been going out to FBI agents across the country who were involved potentially in the investigation. Do you believe anyone involved at any level should be fired, sir?
Well, I think the FBI was a very corrupt institution, and I'm a victim of it in a true sense. I was able to beat it, but other people have been treated horribly. I think the FBI...
Bundy, Gacy, the Unabomber, Snowden...
had a great reputation. I think it's...
You mean during Hoover?
Reputation was really damaged badly, as is...
When they stopped, tormenting civil rights leaders?
DOJ. Look at what they've done in terms of weaponization. Look at what they've done to a political opponent. Probably got me elected by what they did. Or I think I was doing well anyway, but they might have got me elected. But you know what? We have to have pristine, beautiful, perfect law enforcement. And
that's how I look at it.
What we want to do, and Cash is the one to do it. He's the one guy that is going to do it.
Why? There should be, in a country of 340 million people, there shouldn't be one person for all these jobs ever. Not the presidency, not any fucking Senate seat. There's so many people in this fucking country. There's no, like, one person ever, especially not a lemon like Kash Patel.
We have to bring the reputation of the FBI. We have to bring the fact of the FBI back to what it could be.
The fact of what the FBI could be.
Not even to what it was, even better than it ever was. Because who would have thought that the FBI could have been corrupted like they were corrupted? Who would have thought?
Like how?
Thought that would have happened? Who would have thought?
You haven't proved that it has.
They would have been used to go after, political opponents, essentially, but me being the number one, and so many other things beyond that. And they've been hurt very badly, and we'll see what happens. But Cash is the one to do it, and I hear he's doing very well. Cash will straighten it out. We have great confidence that we can make the FBI great again. Okay, one or two more and we'll be done.
Fibiaga?
Gabbard's nomination is...
Say it?
Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, I think Tulsi's going to be doing okay. I'm not sure. I can't guarantee anything, but she's liked by so many people, especially people in the military and law enforcement.
She has a little bit of trouble with some senators over her thoughts on Edward Snowden. I know Snowden, you've mentioned in the past you're thinking about pardoning him. Are you still, and what do you think about that?
No, I don't talk about it right now. I just, people feel very differently. Some people think he should be pardoned, and some people think it would be a terrible...
Weird. It's almost like as president, you should have an opinion about this. I'm fucking with you. Leadership is it's a joke.
Thing to do, but I don't get involved in that.
Yeah, you do, dummy. Yes, you do. You would have to be the person who fucking does it. I don't get involved in that. What a wuss.
Just respect. I have great respect for Rupert Murdoch. I disagree with him a lot of times with the Wall Street Journal, but that's all right. We've disagreed before, and I'm sure they didn't have any idea what they were talking about, because already you see what's happening. Look at Colombia. Look at what happened with that. Everybody said that with Colombia it was going to be a disaster. In 1 hour, everything was settled.
Yeah, because you stopped using military planes and used civilian planes, and they were like, okay, fine. We just didn't want military planes flying over our territory without permission and landing at our airports. That was the gripe.
You know why? Tariffs.
No, not at all.
Tariffs. Without tariffs, they wouldn't have been the same way. They would not have treated me the way they treated me, which was extremely nicely. And I don't want to use countries, I don't want to use names, but
because you don't remember them.
Tariffs are very powerful, both economically and in getting everything else you want. Tariffs for us, nobody can compete with us because we're the pot of gold. But if we don't keep winning.
By the way, that's why he thinks he can start these tariff wars, because Biden drove the stock market up so high that it could lose 5,000 points at this point and still be a correction territory. So they know they have this room to play with they could drive up unemployment, and it would give if he fucks employment in this country for a little while and makes people lose their jobs, that's one of the things that will get the Fed to lower interest rates. Do you understand that there's a greater thing at play? Whether it's him figuring out, I don't think so. But Bessent absolutely knows this. One of the reasons why you put 25% tariffs on and threaten, make everybody shift their production, especially from Canada, shift their production to the United States, is that it takes a long time, and these factories aren't going to hire as many people that lose their job in the secondary industries. The same thing with the steel issue. It's more, there are like 9 subsidiary jobs for every 1 steel job in the country, right? So the issue that that he has in this situation is that he's got room to move in the stock market, room to move in the economy, and he needs unemployment to go up so the Fed will lower interest rates, which benefits real estate, which is his industry.
And keep doing well, we won't be the pot of gold, and then tariffs won't be so good for us. But when you're the pot of gold, the tariffs are very good. They're very powerful, and they're going to make our country very rich again. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
I don't know.
Thank you, guys.
How is the market doing?
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Let's go.
Is it? I don't know. I don't think about it.
I don't think about the market. How's the market doing? Not good. Well, is it? I didn't really think about it. Now that I think about it, I don't know. Well, we made it, kids. And I guess the takeaway in this particular sense, other than the fact that you're wonderful, is that Trump is largely talking out of his ass, is very convinced, and there seems to be very little changing his mind that tariffs are a thing that will be a magic balm that will solve all of his budgetary issues that he created himself last time, and that he's got some enablers around him that will let him go so far and then pull the shit back if they don't like it. So, and we'll see. We'll, there's a lot that he wants to do, and it really seems like there's a bunch of people around him who are advising him about how far to go with stuff. And as soon as they say no, he stops. So the idea is that everywhere, everybody will respond like they have about the tariffs this week, and he rolls them back, and it looks like he was. Yeah, no, I was just, this is negotiation. I'm a master negotiator. That's what maggots are going to think about this. When in reality, he went through with it. The blowback was bad. Everybody around him went, whoa, this is going to fuck my state up. And then he rolled it back. So, again, the biggest thing I would worry about, if I did worry, and I really don't, is whether or not at some point they decide to go for a militaristic stance towards the cartels in Mexico. That seems to be the most dangerous stuff that could pop off on the streets of America. That would be it. Because one of the things that they could do in this process, that the cartels could do as a countermeasure, is street terrorism, murder, that kind of stuff, to draw the situation to a standstill. Right? So, anyways, that requires watching, and I think Democrats and Republicans in the House and Senate should keep a very keen eye on that. Why don't I worry? Because it's a useless emotion. Yeah, I don't participate in worry. I feel okay. So I have concern for things, and I I will, if I see something as a potential problem, I will work towards its solution, but I don't worry. Yeah, covering your 6 is not worrying, just being prepared. Does that make sense? And again, worry in and of itself, if it helped, I'd feel a lot better about it. You know, I would use it. If worrying about stuff actually made a difference, I'd do it. But it does the opposite. It takes power away. It makes everybody really nervous and kind of ineffective. It eats up a lot of brain power. Worry is weaponized imagination. Someone takes your imagination and turns it against you, puts a bit in its mouth and makes you, eats up your brain power and the oxygen that's going to your brain and key nutrients and builds synapses where they do not belong. And so it's not that it can't happen to me. It's just when it does, I pare it out on purpose. I consider it an active attack on my well-being, not just something that's naturally going to happen. Worry is not only a waste of your emotion and your life force, but it also diminishes your ability to respond to an emergency in the moment. It makes you less effective. You can be concerned. That isn't worry. You can see the possible danger ahead, but you don't have to. Worry is the act of ruminating on it to the point where it stresses you out. And a lot of people don't make the distinction. They'll go, I see a problem coming. That's not necessarily being the same. That's not the same thing as worry. Okay. It sounds a little bipolar. No. Bipolar's passive. It happens to you. It's not an active choice. And again, everybody talks about this whole complying in advance, don't comply in advance, don't comply in advance. We've heard this, and everybody seems to agree with it until it comes to worry, until this asshole makes you want to sweat and fear, and then you're like, I've got to sweat and fear because it's a real thing. Okay, that's complying in advance. Worry is complying in advance. And it doesn't make you more effective. Having empathy for the people that might be affected in a situation, concern for that might actually happen, is not worry. And you can tell the difference. You can move from, you're like, this looks like a problem, to, that feeling. That's the difference between worry and awareness of a concern. And you've got to separate those if you actually want to be valuable in a situation. That's all. It's an active choice, because worry can be habitual. It can be taught. It could be, you could, grow up with it, or that it just works that way and just, I don't know, I just worry. It just happens. No, it doesn't. Every emotion you have, and I'm going to end on this point. Every emotion you have, feeling you have about something is based on a decision you've already made. You think first, then you feel, even if that thought happened a long time ago. Even if the decision you made about what something means, that it's good or bad, happened a long time ago, you decided about it before you emoted about it. Everything. And especially as you're an adult. Okay? If you're a grown-up, because if I see you on the street and I know who you are, and I go, "What's up, asshole?" The tone of my voice and the fact that it's me saying it means that the words "What's up, asshole" are fine. It's funny. You're happy to see me, and you go, "I don't know, dickhead, what's up with you?" But if I'm a total stranger, you don't know who I am, and I go, "What's up, asshole?" You have decided that that tone from a stranger is reason for concern. Does that make sense? It's a decision. You're not, you only have that feeling because you have decided, I don't know that person. I don't like the tone of their voice, because when I've heard that tone before, that tone means negative versus, "What's up, asshole? What's going on?" Right? It's not the words. It's the tone and who's saying it, because that's integral to how you feel about it. If a friend calls you a dickhead versus a stranger calling you a dickhead, it means something totally different, because you've made a decision that those two things are different, and they are. Yeah, you are triggered specifically because you have decided this thing is a trigger. Okay? And you can decide it's not anymore. There might be some residual habitual response to it for a while. That's right, the New Zealand thing with the C word, right? Or if you're Irish, you kunche. You might be a dickhead, though. Well, you might have decided that it's okay. People call me a dickhead means that person's smart. I need to follow them. They know where the food is. But I'm telling you, what narcissists and evil, manipulative, media-related people will try to do is lasso control of your fucking emotions and make you do what they want you to do, even if it's paralysis and panic. Because they can't have you calm and aware and have all of your faculties. That's when you're dangerous. That's very important to yeah, aren't you a narcissist? Yeah, but I'm a good guy. I'm one of the good narcissists, Rob. Yeah? They want you in fear. They want you panicked. They want you overwhelmed, exhausted. You're not exhausted. And even the language is spellbinding. You can tell yourself to behave a certain way just by saying it enough, right? People can talk themselves into a panic attack. And if you can do that, you can talk yourself out of one. And you can certainly avoid letting other people talk you into one by changing the meaning of what they're saying to what you want it to mean. They have no control over that. You do. You have Trump exhaustion? No, you don't. Trump is exhausted already. Your goal needs to be is to make him exhausted. Transfer that exhaustion back on him. He doesn't have the right to make you exhausted. You're too important. If, again, smiling, keeping your wits about you, that's what makes trolls crazy. Not yelling back at them, you phony motherfucker, you hypocrite, blah, blah, blah. Even though it's true, it doesn't affect them the way you think it should, right? Oh, thank you, Arizona Sunflowers. I'm glad to be of service. Because to me, comedy is not just a religious calling. It's my own crusade, if you will. It's my wacky crusade. But it's also a service job. Comedy is a service job. My job is only successful if I invoke the proper response out of you, which is to lighten your mood and give you a perspective you wouldn't have otherwise and make you laugh. As a comedian, that's my job. That's why I don't believe in tough crowds. I've told you guys. I don't believe in tough crowds. There's no such thing as a tough crowd. Just a lazy comic. Yeah, comics saying there's a tough crowd is like a massage therapist going, I can't do anything, you're too tense. Fuck you, get to rubbing, dummy. That's why I'm here. Right? And so in certain instances where people are like, well, that's easy for you to say. Yeah, that's exactly why I'm saying it. That's like saying, it's easy for you to save me from drowning. You're the one that can swim. Right? Think about that for a second. It's a privilege to know how to swim. And you can't, if you're drowning, don't bitch about somebody who had the privilege to take swimming lessons in that moment. You know what I mean? So that's my goal for you guys. And it can be singular. Nobody has to agree with me. That's the great thing about this. It's all rhetorical. Right? And the interesting thing is, I've already made a decision about the worth of what I'm doing. So that's why the trolls don't fuck with me the way they do everybody else. Did you notice that? Like, it's not... I mean, you could tell, maybe you can't. I don't know. Maybe... I am a fantastic actor, though, so it's hard to tell. But I guess you can trust me on this. But there's a reason why trolls don't affect me the way they do other people. And I'm always amazed when I see it affect other people the way it does. Honestly, because it baffles my mind. I don't understand. Because I would never give someone like that power over me. It just seems silly. And the very fact that they would want to do that makes them less than me. So, right? Anybody who's in the business of just fucking with people just for the sake of fucking with people is a low-rung person anyway. So why would I worry about that person being above me? It's just not possible. Yeah? So I think it's important to just recognize whether you want it to be true or not. You decide what upsets you. You decide what makes you happy. There are people who pay good money to have people kick them in the balls because they have decided that's what sexy is. I don't get it. I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum. But if they can do that, you can shrug off a fucking troll. You know what I mean? If they can make up the mind that this strange lady whacking me in the, like, tying a fucking rubber band around my testicles and hitting them with a riding crop is awesome. It's the equivalent of a good smooch. If they can decide that about that, then you can decide that a troll fucking with you is actually a sign you're doing something right and totally good. Right? If you're bugging those people, right? Does that make sense? So it's just my little thought on the topic. And you guys, here's what the only thing I ask is that you ruminate on it yourself a little bit, right? That you just go through, hold on one second, I'm gonna open this thing up. Go through that thought on your own. Just look around over the next week or until I see you next time, tomorrow night, and think about like, oh yeah, that makes me upset every time I look at it. And then go, why? Why would that do it? What's the opposite feeling that could give me? What's hilarious about that thing that upsets me? What's bizarre? Why shouldn't that make other people more angry than it makes me angry? That kind of stuff. And if you click at the thing that's triggering you, you'll notice that the trigger doesn't work as well anymore. Okay? Just play with it. That's just a thought. I'm just saying. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it tonight. And glad Salty got a bonus. That's very sweet. I'll give it to him myself.
All I'm offering is the truth. Groovy.
I'm your father, Luke. Give in to the dark side of the force, you knob.
Did have a shake. Throw me a frickin' bone here. I'm the boss.
We've got entirely too many troublemakers here.
You using the whole fist, Doc?
The sportos, the motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, dickheads, they all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.